We open on a cheery note. A woman is being electrocuted in a chair. Fun. In a flashback, our hero is forced to watch as his comrade, Sue, endures a horrific ordeal. She had clung to the belief that it was all just a game they could log out of. But as her strength fails, she tearfully calls out to Woo-yun, apologizing that she can't hold on. All he can do is reach out and scream her name, completely helpless as she meets her grim end. Talk about a guilt trip. The trauma parade continues. Another one of Woo-yun's friends, strapped down and fading fast, tells him this is the end of the line. With his last breath, he urges Woo-yun to survive. But this wasn't a solo performance. The whole room was filled with people waiting to be permanently logged out. Powerless, Woo-yun watched them go one by one until only he remained. Left alone in the grim silence, he begged the empty chairs not to leave him behind. Talk about some serious survivor's guilt. For our hero, that waking nightmare became his new reality. It all started with Reverse Planet, the world's hottest VR game. It was a classic power fantasy with dimensional gates and alien invasions that everyone and their grandma was playing. A friend innocently recommended he try it, thinking it would be a good time. What a recommendation. He logged in expecting a bit of fun, only to discover he was completely trapped in a world where the game had become terrifyingly real. Talk about a bad download. The whole ordeal was revealed to be a twisted competition called Project Transcendence. In a sterile lab, a figure in a hazmat suit congratulates Woo-yun, or rather, test subject No. 62, for surviving. The project's insane goal was to create one perfect being by sacrificing thousands. Unlucky participants were subjected to a series of inhumane biological experiments. With the latest round over, a supervisor coldly orders his grunts to clear out those who didn't pass and lock up the survivors. Woo-yun, unfortunately, was one of the lucky ones. Strapped to a chair and looking worse for wear, Woo-yun made a silent, deadly promise he would not forgive them. If this horrifying game had truly become his reality, then he would survive and get his revenge. Just as he's having his big villain origin moment, a blaring alarm cuts through the tension. An announcement echoes through the facility. Test subjects have escaped. As if on cue, a group of survivors is seen sprinting down a hallway. Someone shouts that the exit is just ahead, kicking off a full-blown jailbreak. The group of survivors sprints for their lives, believing freedom is just one corridor away. But of course, their escape party is immediately crashed by a new obstacle. A ridiculously muscular guard with fiery red hair and a creepy mask blocks their path. He mockingly congratulates them on making it this far, then cheerfully announces it's time for them to be permanently retired. Knowing they can't run, some of the test subjects decide to face him head-on, yelling for Baek Woo-yun to cover them from the back. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? The masked guard, not a fan of teamwork, screams that he'll just take them all down at once. But his big bad guy moment is cut short when Woo-yun intervenes. A flash of purple energy crackles as he grabs his opponent. The once cocky guard is suddenly helpless, lifted into the air as the immense pressure shatters his mask. Moments later, the hallway is quiet, littered with defeated bodies. Woo-yun stands over them, panting in horror. Tears stream down his face as he realizes he's lost control again. As Woo-yun grapples with his actions, his personal ghost choir starts up a concert in his head. The shadowy spirits of his fallen comrades appear, demanding he go on a revenge tour and eliminate everyone responsible. It's not exactly a feel-good tune. Their angry pleas turn into a chaotic screaming match, all directed at our poor protagonist. The mental noise becomes so overwhelming that his consciousness just decides to peace out. And apparently, it was a long nap because 1, 2, then 3 full years fly by. We cut to a flashback of a different man on his own escape mission. A squad of guards, clearly terrified, yells for him to stay back as they open fire. But this guy is on a one-man crusade to avenge the ones he loved. He declares that after breaking out, all he did was fight. He moves like a blur through the hallway, effortlessly disabling the armed soldiers. One guard after another is tossed aside. His rampage is brutal and efficient, a whirlwind of fists and fury. He was unstoppable, but a single thought cuts through his rage. This lone warrior's rampage was fueled by the same thing driving Woo-yun, a personal revenge committee screaming in his head. The shadowy apparitions of his fallen friends demanded justice in a never-ending loop. He screams in despair, wondering if this brutal cycle will ever end. Right on cue, a holographic screen pops up with a special mission. The task, bug fix. The objective, eliminate the head of Project Transcendence, and the reward is the jackpot, a chance to go home. Finally, a way out of this nightmare. The aftermath is messy. The general manager's luxurious office is completely trashed, and his security team is down for the count. He kneels before 2 imposing figures, one of whom has a man-shaped dent in the wall behind him. The director wails, demanding to know why this is happening. He insists all he had to do was enjoy his success. Kim Youngjin, identified as test subject No. 81, yanks the man up by his collar. With a predatory grin, he asks if the director is seriously asking that question because he doesn't already know. The director tells test subject 81 to shut his trap, screaming that he wasn't talking to him. Youngjin, completely unbothered, ignores the tantrum and turns his attention to the real man in charge, Mr. Baek Wooyin. Turns out Wooyin is the infamous test subject No. 62, the project's supposed superhuman. Realizing he's been barking up the wrong tree, the director starts desperately groveling. He offers Wooyin anything he desires, but our hero simply states he doesn't need it. The director loses it, warning that a League of Enterprises will hunt him down. The director, clearly not reading the room, starts threatening everyone Woo Hyun has ever met, but before he can finish his villain monologue, a blade flashes through the air. The director's threats are cut short permanently. Youngjin, however, is less than thrilled, complaining about the mess on his clothes. He also points out they kind of needed to question the guy. A little late for that. Just then, a system window confirms mission complete and offers the grand prize a ticket home. Woo Hyun realizes he can finally leave this nightmare behind. With his ticket home just a button press away, Woo Hyun hesitates. But before he can make his grand escape, the ghostly figures of his fallen comrades appear. They're not exactly thrilled about him leaving, asking if he's forgotten them already. The spirits scream for vengeance, demanding he make their enemies pay. Woo Han, however, is completely burnt out. He declares he's sick of it all and questions if he hasn't already done enough. Torn by his decision, he's abruptly snapped back to reality when someone grabs his shoulder. The person grabbing Woo Hyun's shoulder is none other than Youngjin, who's apparently been promoted to a ghost. He yells that Woo Hyun can't just leave, insisting this dimension was his home from the start. But Woo Hyun has already checked out. With a look of finality, he asks Youngjin to tell the others he's sorry. Then, he smashes that big blue return home button. Woo Hyun jolts awake in a cold sweat, tangled in his sheets. He sits up, frantically scanning his surroundings. It's his room, his actual boring room. He's really back. He lets out a shaky breath of relief and immediately reaches for his phone, desperate to know just how much time he lost in that nightmare. He checks his phone, and his blood runs cold. The date is May 19th, the exact day he was first dragged into the game. Apparently, time in the real world just decided to take a nap while he was gone. He rushes to a mirror, confirming that his battle-worn body, complete with scars and muscles, has been totally reset. For a moment, it feels like it was all just a terrible dream. But the brutal memories of the battlefield and the desperate, pleading words of a fallen comrade are a stark reminder that the nightmare was very, very real. A chilling memory of an enemy threatening his loved ones confirms Woo Hyun's worst fear this was no dream. The 10 years he spent fighting were horrifyingly real. Just as he's processing this bombshell, his phone buzzes, interrupting his existential crisis. The caller is a Jung Naeon, a name that rings a faint bell. He answers, only to get an earful from a very angry girl about ignoring her texts and bailing on their plans for that night. Before he can even ask who she is, she hangs up, leaving him completely baffled. Staring at his phone, Woo Hyun's brain finally puts the pieces together. He recognizes the voice. It belongs to his closest friend, Jung Naeon. He then has a flashback to the very moment she enthusiastically dragged him into playing Reverse Planet, the game that ruined his life. For a second, his war-haunted paranoia flares up. Could his cheerful best friend be the mastermind behind his 10-year nightmare? He dismisses it as unlikely, but decides to meet her for answers. Arriving at their planned spot, a bell chimes as he enters, and Naeon immediately calls him over. Naeon greets him enthusiastically, asking if he wants to drink since it's been so long. But Woo Hyun, fresh off a 10-year stint in a war zone, wisely passes. He knows better than to mix alcohol with his current mental state. Naeon, totally oblivious, then brings up the cursed game, asking if he even tried the tutorial. Woo Hyun flatly states that he made his character, watched the intro, and was immediately dragged in. She scoffs, complaining that he basically didn't even play. The sheer irony of her words hits him like a truck. As his hand clenches under the table, Woo Hyun internally blames Naeon for the 10 years of hell he endured. But Naeon, completely oblivious, pouts about how he was supposed to be a regular on her stream. She had big plans to use his Colosseum Ranker skills to get her small channel some buzz. The word streamer finally clicks for Woo Hyun, so that's why she was so pushy. Still, this ridiculously normal conversation makes him feel like he's truly home. A mouse clicks, hinting at his next move. With his next move decided, Woo Hyun's fingers tap away at his keyboard, pulling up information on Planet Earth, the developers of Reverse Planet. He finds their headquarters are in Silicon Valley, but quickly loses steam. What's the plan exactly? March in there and announce their VR game sent him to a 10-year-long war. Yeah, they just think he's a lunatic, and if they are involved, complaining to the manager is a terrible idea. He's not keen on becoming a science experiment. He should just forget everything. But as he resolves to move on, a hand lands on his shoulder. After that day, Woo Hyun dives headfirst into his old routine, trying his best to play the part of a normal college kid. He goes to class, hangs with friends, and pretends a decade-long war never happened. But of course, his brain isn't buying it. While trying to study, his mind snaps. The peaceful library dissolves into a hellish vision of his past. Shadowy hands grab at him as the voices of his dead comrades echo, questioning if this peaceful reality is even his. He shoots up from his seat, the chilling demand for vengeance ringing in his ears. The voices of his dead comrades get louder, insisting he doesn't belong in this peaceful world. Their message is crystal clear: go and get vengeance. Woo Han finally snaps, his chair crashing backward as he jolts up from his seat. The other students just stare, cluelessly wondering what's wrong with him. He stumbles into the hallway, trying to catch his breath, but the nightmare follows. A sinister voice whispers his name as a ghostly red hand grabs his shoulder. Yeah, moving on isn't gonna be that easy. A concerned friend reaches out, asking if he's alright. Bad move. Woo Hyun's war-torn instincts immediately take over, yanking his arm away. For a terrifying second, he's back on the battlefield, ready to neutralize a threat with the nearest weapon. Luckily, he snaps out of it before he can take his classmate out with a ballpoint pen. The friend, completely bewildered, stammers an apology for startling him. He adds that everyone's noticed he's been acting strange lately. Yeah, no kidding. Woo Hyun just stares at his trembling hand, a cold sweat breaking out. Woo Hyun escapes outside, trying to find a moment's peace by cracking open a can of soda. But his brain isn't done with him yet. Slumping onto a bench, he's dragged back into a waking nightmare. The shadowy spirits of his comrades swarm him, their voices echoing in his head. They demand he stop running, come back, and get their revenge. Just as the vision overwhelms him, a cheerful voice calls his name, snapping him back to reality. It's his friend Jung Naeun. She notes he looks like he's seen a ghost, asking if he's okay. He quickly denies it. Naeun offers to be his big sis and help him out, but Woo Hyun isn't buying it. He finally understands the situation. As he sits there, he can feel the shadowy figures of his dead comrades lurking right under the bench, their ghostly hands reaching out. He realizes he's the one who brought this curse into his peaceful world. Back in his room, he stares at the VR pod with grim determination. If the haunting won't end until they get their revenge, then this world is no different from the other one. There's only one choice left. Done with the whole haunted college student routine, Woo Hyun straps himself into the VR pod. There's no hesitation this time, just pure, unfiltered determination. He declares that he's going back in to put an end to this whole mess for good. The machine hums to life, and a digital blue light washes over his eyes as the game interface boots up. He isn't logging on to play, he's clocking in for round 2 of a war he never got to finish. It's time to give his ghostly comrades what they want. A system message cheerily welcomes Woo Hyun to Reverse Planet. But instead of the battlefield he was expecting, he materializes in some pristine, boring lab lobby. So much for his dramatic re-entry. He wonders why the universe decided to stick him in the tutorial zone after he'd mentally prepared for round 2 of a deathmatch. A prompt asks if he wants to change his look. Deciding to just get this over with, he keeps his appearance and sets the combat assistance to 0. He handled the real thing without training wheels. Thank you very much. A system prompt chimes asking Woo Han to pick his first core ability. He's presented with a ridiculously complicated skill tree, the kind of thing pro gamers hire specialists to analyze. But Woo Hyun didn't need a guide. He recalls that his powerful metahuman title came from a very specific build. To his surprise, the system announces he has a new core ability available. A sudden memory flashes. A cold, sterile lab where a disembodied voice over an intercom addresses test subject No 48, noting that a week has passed since their awakening. Woo Hyun figures the game conveniently skipped the traumatic wakening process. A flash of nasty memories reminds him why. Images of people strapped down during some seriously shady experiments. Yeah, he sarcastically agrees, no gamer would pay for that kind of tutorial. An automated voice suddenly cuts in, announcing the next test and telling him to head inside. A heavy door slides open, revealing his opponent a massive combat robot. It's an Etinol, and it looks ready to turn him into a pancake. So much for a gentle reintroduction to the game. A system message explains that this isn't just any tutorial bot. It's a killing machine designed to stop berserk test subjects from Project Transcendence, and it has a long history of success. The official quest chimes in, destroy the Etinol. Unfazed, Woo Han squints at the robot, wondering if it's just the outdated first version. A sudden, jarring memory hits him. He sees the same robot standing over fallen figures in a dark lab while someone cries out for help. Back in the game, the Etinol's single red eye glows ominously as it lunges forward, ready to fight. As the robot lunges, Woo Hyun calmly cracks his knuckles, the ground beneath him starting to fracture from sheer pressure. He mutters that it doesn't matter where they are. Researchers are always committing cruel acts. A golden light flares in his eyes, a clear sign he's done playing nice. Not one for waiting, the Eternal swings its massive metal arm in a deadly arc, aiming to flatten him in a single blow. The huge fist rockets toward his face, leaving our hero with about 0 seconds to come up with a plan. With a fist big enough to level a building, the robot swings. But instead of getting flattened, Woo Hyun casually sidesteps and stops the metal arm with a single hand. He thinks to himself that even if the first version of this tin can has an annoying ability, it's still just the outdated model. One effortless twist later, the robot is reduced to a pile of expensive scrap metal on the floor. An automated voice announces that the test has ended, leaving Woo Hyun standing over the wreckage, completely unimpressed. With the tutorial bot reduced to scrap, another memory floods Woo Hyun's mind. A voice congratulates a different test subject, number 48, on their talent. But before the next phase of the experiment can begin, the lab is thrown into chaos. Red emergency lights flash as the researchers panic about an intruder. A scream echoes through the facility, followed by a woman's calm voice over the intercom. After a quick mic test, she coolly addresses the oppressed victims. Trapped inside the lab, signaling the start of a major incident. The woman's voice calmly echoes over the intercom, politely asking everyone to evacuate as if this were a scheduled fire drill and not a full-blown disaster. Test subject 48 recognizes her voice right as a new quest pops up: escape the research facility. Real original. As if to prove the point, a massive explosion rips through the lab. Deciding that getting out is now a top priority, he sprints through the crumbling corridors, only to stop dead in his tracks. The hallway is littered with neutralized guards, leaving him staring at the absolute chaos. Stumbling through the wreckage, he finds a guard who looks like he just went 10 rounds with a blender. But a logo on the man's vest stops him cold. Dimensional Management Bureau. So not an enemy. The guard, barely hanging on, offers to help him escape. A secret wall slides open, revealing a candy store of deadly toys. He tells the test subject to pick one and hands him a communicator for when he gets out. Then, the guard collapses, leaving our guy to wonder if his new ally just permanently logged off. Staring at the busted robot, the test subject tries to rationalize the chaos as just another part of the story. Taking the dead guard's advice, he scans the armory and picks the most practical weapon he can find: a giant, ominous scythe. Classic. The moment he grabs it, a strange, dark energy pulses around him. But instead of a power-up, he's hit with a wave of disgust. Elsewhere, our boy Woo Hyun logs into Reverse Planet, sighing at the thought of playing the country's most beloved game. Elsewhere, professional streamer Kang Soil is having a dramatic meltdown. Her carefully crafted image as an indie game connoisseur is being publicly shredded because her viewers have forced her to play the ultra-popular Reverse Planet as a punishment. Her live chat is, of course, a raging dumpster fire of mockery. After yelling that this was their idea, she reluctantly accepts her fate. A promise is a promise after all. With a newfound, slightly forced determination, she vows to dominate the game, skipping customizations to go straight for choosing an overpowered starting ability. The final step in character creation is setting the combat correction, which is basically an auto assist for dummies. Her chat, of course, loses its mind, demanding she set it to 0. They're absolutely ruthless, calling her scared. Soil hesitates, knowing from her research that the number of players who've ever chosen 0 is 0. After a brief moment of panic, she caves to her audience's peer pressure. As if on cue, a new mission pops up. Clear the tutorial with no assists for a hefty cash prize. Well, that changes things. With cash signs in her eyes, Soil does a complete 180, declaring that real streamers always accept a challenge. Her chat, of course, mercilessly roasts her for the sudden change of heart. She confidently sprints into the tutorial and gets promptly flattened by a robot in under 2 minutes. She fumes about the unfair ambush, but her viewers point out that the goal was never to win, just to escape. As she gets up, a new quest pops up: escape the facility. And to make things worse, automatic party matching has just begun. Soil realizes she needs a party to clear the tutorial. Her viewers, of course, immediately accuse her of wanting to get carried. She scoffs, confident that matchmaking in a game this huge can't possibly fail. Naturally, the system announces that matchmaking has failed. Her chat helpfully explains the brutal truth: the system only matches players with the same settings, meaning she needs to find other lunatics who chose 0 assists. Panicking, she tries to cancel, but it's too late. The game finds a match, and she's warped into another player's mission, realizing she is royally screwed. Soil warps into a mechanical graveyard, completely bewildered by the sparking wreckage of countless robots. Her chat loses its collective mind as she stares at her new teammate, the lone figure standing amidst the carnage. She tells her viewers this is no joke. Realizing the impossible truth, this guy wiped out an entire squad with 0 combat assists and without even using a gun. Her panic immediately vanishes, replaced by pure, shameless glee. She happily announces that she's about to get carried and rushes off to find her new meal ticket. Amidst the sparks and wreckage, Woo Hyun stands completely still, his blade still dripping from the recent robot demolition derby. He is clearly not looking to make new friends. On the other side of the junkyard, Soil cautiously peeks around a corner, ready to greet her new meal ticket. She cheerfully calls out to find him, but her sentence is cut short when a cold blade suddenly presses against her skin. Woo Han has appeared right in front of her, and her brain immediately shuts down. Well, so much for getting a free carry. With a blade at her throat, Soil's brain hits the emergency eject button and she blurts out an apology. Woo Han, realizing she isn't an enemy, just a random lunatic, lowers his weapon and tries to walk away. But Soil's survival instincts, and her complete lack of shame, kick in. She glums onto him, introducing herself and cheerfully announcing that he's on her live stream. As they walk past the unfortunate aftermath of his previous fight, he suddenly freezes. Soil panics, thinking she annoyed him, but his hand is already reaching for his sidearm. They have company. The new arrivals aren't here to chat. An armed squad appears with simple instructions: eliminate everyone. As gunfire erupts, Soil immediately dives for cover, yelling about the game's absurd difficulty. Her life is in danger, but she's more worried that her free carry is about to get disconnected. In a flash, Woo Hyun moves to shield her, taking the full brunt of the attack. His body is riddled with impacts from the volley of shots, and he crumples to the floor, wrapped in chains. Looks like this carry is officially over. Well, that takedown lasted all of 5 seconds. Instead of being out for the count, Woo Hyun uses the very chains binding him to his advantage, summoning a scythe and turning into a whirlwind of destruction. The entire armed squad is effortlessly dismantled. Hiding nearby, Soil and her chat are completely floored. She admits that what he's doing shouldn't be possible according to the game's rules. As his eyes turn an eerie white, one viewer drops a bombshell. This isn't a glitch, it's the legendary core ability, Absolute Being. Soil is gobsmacked, muttering the name of the legendary skill. Just moments ago, her entire chat was flaming Absolute Being as a totally useless ability. Now Woo Hyun stands amidst the wreckage, his eyes glowing with an unnerving light. He seems to silently mock the viewers, reminding them how they dismissed this power as trash. The chat, predictably, loses its mind, with their collective game knowledge suddenly proven worthless. One viewer perfectly sums up the mood. They are all completely and utterly clueless about what is happening. So, what is this Absolute Being skill that has everyone's jaws on the floor? It's a massive physical stat booster with one tiny, insignificant catch you out of using any other abilities. In a game built entirely around flashy skills, the community naturally labeled it as premium grade garbage. It's so bad. It's #1 on the official "Do Not Touch" list. But as Soil puzzles it out, a wild theory forms. In a no-holds-barred fight, trading skills for pure, overwhelming power might just be a genius move. From Soil's perspective, this just doesn't add up. She mutters that his movements are impossible for a level 1 character. But Woo Hyun clearly didn't get the memo about game physics. He becomes a whirlwind of pure chaos, using the chains to his advantage. A few precise, brutal movements later, and the entire high-level squad is left completely neutralized on the floor. Woo Hyun stands over them without a scratch, prompting everyone watching to ask the million-dollar question: just who in the world is this guy? While Woo Hyun contemplates his messy handiwork, the ghosts of his fallen comrades chime in with some friendly advice. They declare his current revenge tour isn't nearly violent enough, and they're not satisfied yet. Back in the sterile corridors of the real world, a soldier lines up a perfect shot on our oblivious protagonist. Just as he's about to get a new hole in his head, a woman screams a warning. An agent named Kim Hana dives in front of him, and the bullets harmlessly spark against her, leaving the shooter completely dumbfounded. Just as another guard takes aim, Kim Hana decides she's had enough of being a human shield. From her position on the ground, she pulls off a slick move, firing her pistol upwards. A single shot rings out, and the guard topples over, permanently clocked out. While some viewers in the chat praise her sharp shooting skills, the trolls immediately start screaming about kill stealing. Woo Hyun, looking completely unimpressed amidst the carnage, just stares down at her. Unbothered, Hana flashes a cheeky grin, asking if she helped. You gotta admire the confidence. As Woo Hyun has a grim flashback to his fallen comrades, Soil timidly interrupts his brooding session. She nervously asks Mr. Hardcarry if he's mad she stole his kill, which is a pretty brave question to ask a guy who currently looks like a walking horror movie poster. But instead of going berserk, Woo Hyun just gives a deadpan no and admits she was actually helpful. This tiny act of decency sends the stream chat into a shipping frenzy. Seizing the opportunity, Soil asks to tag along, and our stoic protagonist simply agrees. As they walk, Soil tentatively breaks the silence, calling him Mr. Hardcarry. Without missing a beat, Woo Hyun corrects her, introducing himself as Baek Wooyeon. Now on a first-name basis, she asks the question on everyone's mind. Did he really pick the famously useless, absolute being skill? Woo Hyun, with all the emotion of a brick wall, confirms that he did. This simple yes sends the stream chat into a full-blown civil war, with half calling him a genius and the other half insisting the skill is still garbage. Still trying to wrap her head around it, Soil asks how he can dodge bullets without any abilities, trying to figure out his gaming history. Woo Hyun, maintaining his mysterious loner vibe, just says he doesn't play anything in particular, which is probably the biggest lie ever told on stream. His vague answer only adds to the chaos in the chat, as viewers wildly speculate about his true identity. He's officially the biggest enigma in Reverse Planet. Suddenly, Woo Hyun stops dead in his tracks. A confused Soil asks what's wrong. With unnerving calm, he announces that there are 2 elite guards about 20 meters ahead. Soil is completely baffled, wondering how he could possibly know that from such a distance. It seems our boy's useless skill came with some off-the-books perks, like a built-in enemy radar that's definitely not part of the standard game package. Soil is internally short-circuiting, trying to figure out how he pulled off a party trick that's not even in the game. But Woo Hyun, ever the cool customer, just says it's no big deal and they should move. They round the corner and, to Soil's utter shock, 2 massive elite guards are standing there, exactly as he predicted. As the machines power up, Woo Hyun gets a nostalgic look, muttering about how he used to enjoy a game called Colosseum. Before Soil can yell at him to stop, he blitzes forward, slamming a devastating kick into one of the guards. The kick was just a warm-up. Woo Hyun moves like a blur, unleashing a brutal combination of strikes that sends the elite guard reeling. Sparks fly as he tears through its metal plating with shocking ease. He mentally clarifies his earlier comment about the Colosseum game, revealing to himself that he wasn't just a casual player, he was a ranker. As the robot crumbles, the stream chat absolutely loses its mind. This one piece of information explains everything. A stunned Soil can only stammer, asking if being a ranker is really that big of a deal. For anyone not in the loop, the chat helpfully explains that being a Colosseum ranker is basically a ticket to the pro leagues. Even the legendary pro, Battler, started out as one. The light bulb finally goes off for Soil. She realizes this mysterious stranger might be on the same level as the game's biggest star, which nearly short-circuits her brain. While she's having a meltdown, Woo Hyun, ever the stoic hero move. Their stroll is interrupted by a final tutorial mission notification and a new, very extra-looking boss. The final tutorial boss, a guy who looks like he failed his audition for a supervillain role, starts spouting some seriously cheesy threats. He gloats that this will be Woo Hyun's final resting place and, making the worst mistake of his short life, says he'll soon be reunited with his dead comrades. This instantly triggers something in Woo Hyun. His calm demeanor vanishes, replaced by a cold fury as visions of shadowy figures flood his mind. The echoes of his fallen friends have a very simple, chilling request for him. The red-haired boss charges forward, vowing that Woo Hyun won't be leaving this place in one piece. Trying to be useful, Soil unloads a clip at the villain, but her bullets just bounce off a glowing red shield. This new development completely fries her circuits. She thought only the awakened could pull off moves like that. After shouting that she'll provide covering fire from a very safe distance, Woo Hyun stands unfazed. He has to forcibly remind himself to calm down, despite the painful memories this clown just triggered. This is only a game. Channeling his rage, Woo Hyun dedicates this beatdown to his fallen friends. He throws a single, brutal punch right into the boss's supposedly impenetrable shield, which promptly shatters into a million digital bits. The force of the impact sends a shockwave through the area, leaving Soil completely speechless as her understanding of game physics officially breaks. The chat explodes with confusion, guessing it has to be a bug. The boss, recovering from the hit, furiously calls Woo Hyun a rat as his body begins to smoke. Still fuming from his shattered shield, the boss roars that he'll tear Woo Hyun to shreds. He stomps forward with so much force that the floor cracks and shatters beneath him. The chat immediately freaks out, guessing that one hit from that would be an instant game over. But while everyone else panics, Woo Hyun just casually sidesteps the clumsy attack. The boss angrily demands to know how long he can keep dodging. As an answer, Woo Hyun stops his next furious punch with a single, unimpressed hand, looking completely bored by the whole temper tantrum. The chat is losing its mind over Woo Hyun's god-tier dodging skills, but our hero is officially done playing games. He wins up and delivers a haymaker that connects squarely with the boss's jaw. The brutal impact sends the guy skidding across the floor, leaving him on his knees. As Woo Hyun stands over his foe, A dark energy begins to swirl around him. Turns out his spectral cheer squad is back, and they are not feeling merciful. They urge him to return the favor for what the boss did to them, only much, much worse. The boss sputters in disbelief, wondering how a mere test subject could be so powerful. Woo Hyun just grabs him by the collar, coldly crediting his strength to his enemies. But before he can deliver the final blow, a gunshot rings out. In a classic kill steal, Soil lands the last hit, and a boss defeated. Message pops up, leaving her completely stunned. The chat praises their new god, Tier Carry, though one viewer notes he seems a little too comfortable with beatdowns. Ignoring them, Soil cheerfully declares victory, much to the chat's sarcastic amusement. Urged on by his spectral entourage, Woo Han grimly agrees to their demands. As he turns to leave, the vengeful spirits swarm the fallen boss, dragging him into the shadows to settle their score. Moments later, Woo, Hyun, and Soil are outside, greeted by a flurry of system messages announcing the tutorial is complete with a level up and a skill point. While Soil celebrates, Woo Hyun has had enough for one day. He declines to continue, but a cheerful Soil asks him to wait, saying she has a little something for him. As Soil ends the stream, her chat mercilessly roasts her for getting carried so hard. Turning to Woo Hyun, she nervously makes her big pitch, asking him to join her streams regularly. She even offers a hefty appearance fee and promises to work around his schedule, practically begging him to be her pro carry. But Woo Hyun is not interested in becoming a streamer's sidekick. He gives her a flat, unapologetic, "I'm sorry." And his dead-eyed stare tells her it's a hard no. Defeated, Soil sees there's absolutely no convincing this guy. Shot down on the team up, Soil tries for a consolation prize a friend request. Woo Hyun couldn't care less but reluctantly agrees. With a cheerful farewell, she logs out, leaving him alone in the virtual space. He stands there confused. The tutorial is over, so why hasn't he returned to the dangerous other side? But while he ponders his situation, someone else is already typing away, uploading a video dead set on proving that Baek Woo Hyun is nothing more than a hacker. His anonymity is officially over. Early the next morning, it's absolute chaos over at Planet Earth Korea, the developer's headquarters. The entire office is in a full-blown meltdown because of a single player. In a crowded meeting room, the operations team watches the now infamous footage on a big screen. They see Woo Hyun dismantle the tutorial boss with nothing but his bare hands. No buffs, no special gear, just pure ownage. The online community is already screaming, "Hacker," and users are demanding answers. A stressed-out team leader asks if they're positive it wasn't foul play. The answer is a confident yes. The tech team confirms they've scrubbed every log since Woo Hyun's character was made, and there's zero evidence of tampering. A senior dev scoffs, claiming they've seen every lame hack in the book, from wall clipping to invisibility. But what Woo Hyun did was on another level, something far more brutal and practiced. The team is completely baffled, with one guy slamming the table and insisting that level of precision is impossible. Another just calls him insane. Still, the team leader considers the tiny chance it's a new type of cheat, which leads him to a decision. With his mind made up, the operations team leader decides they need to verify this mystery player, and fast. Meanwhile, Baek Woo Hyun sits down for a chat with Jung Naeon, who looks like she just won the lottery. He seems genuinely confused, asking if the internet is really losing its mind over him. Naeon gleefully confirms it's total pandemonium. His little stunt sparked a mod challenge, where everyone failed spectacularly. Naturally, their only conclusion was that he must be a hacker. Naeon admits that even she was completely floored by the video. Woo Hyun asks how she recognized him with his mask on, but Naeon points out the obvious. He said his own name. She admits she's seen him fight before, but his latest performance was so ridiculous it just screamed, hacker. This seems to explain the strange contact he received. When she asks who contacted him, she's floored to learn it was Planet Earth Korea, the actual game developers. They want to investigate him. While she loses her mind, he calmly confirms it. Naeon sees this as a huge opportunity, eagerly asking if he'll do it. Woo Hyun privately considers the offer. This is his only real shot to interact with the developers and maybe, just maybe, get some clues about the other world. He tells a thrilled Naeon that he'll do it. She thinks it's a great choice since it's better to clear his name than be called a hacker forever. Woo Hyun scoffs, doubting anyone would recognize him since he never showed his face. Naeon argues his fighting style is too unique. Pros get identified by tiny habits, like tapping a foot before a skill. He just finds people's obsessiveness creepy. Naeon tells him he made the right call, pointing out that otherwise, the poor streamer would have been roasted alive by the internet mob. Woo Hyun is genuinely confused, questioning why she'd be involved at all. Naeon practically calls him a simpleton, explaining that internet trolls don't care about logic, they'd attack him, and then go after her just for being associated. As he considers this, a memory of a fallen friend flashes in his mind. Elsewhere, the streamer Kang Soil receives a message. He agreed. She nearly drops her phone, completely stunned and overjoyed. Overjoyed is an understatement. Kang Soil is practically rubbing her hands together like a cartoon villain, seeing her viewer count about to explode. Tapping away at her keyboard, she vows to put on a show never before seen in Reverse Planet history. 4 days later, the hack verification stream begins. Woo Hyun logs in, his avatar materializing in a flash of light. Soil's character immediately sprints over, laying the apology on thick and asking if he's been okay through all this. But Woo Hyun is completely unfazed by the drama, simply telling her it's no big deal. Woo Hyun cuts straight to the point, asking Soil if she actually suspects him. She gets all flustered, claiming his moves look too legit to be hacks. But her real reason is a bit more dramatic. She flashes back to the chilling look in his eyes as he stood over a defeated opponent. That wasn't a cheater, that was something else entirely. She nervously calls it instinct. Unimpressed, Woo Han just agrees to start. With that, Soil goes live and her viewer count instantly explodes as the ravenous chat demands answers. Woo Hyun kicks things off by simply introducing himself, and the live chat immediately loses its mind. Haters scream, "Hacker," while a few brave souls call for calm. Soil, seeing her stream devolve into chaos, threatens to disable the chat entirely. She turns to Woo Hyun and asks for his thoughts on the controversy. Completely unbothered, he calls the whole situation ridiculous. This, of course, only fuels the fire, as the chat roasts him for his seemingly arrogant dismissal of their very serious gamer drama. The chat demands proof, so Soil admits his skills were just too amazing. To settle the debate once and for all, she reveals she invited a special guest. A portal shimmers open, and out steps Park Jumayon, an actual operations manager from the game company. The official GM tag above his head silences the chat instantly. This is serious. While everyone is shocked, Woo Hyun sees his chance. This company man might have the answers he's looking for. Jumayon, in turn, sizes up the infamous player, noting how disappointingly normal he seems. With a flick of his wrist, the company man summons a digital pathway, leading them to a special verification area. The scenery glitches and reforms, dropping them into a sleek, metallic room that looks way too expensive for a simple hack check. Jumayon explains this is a private training room where they'll conduct combat tests. While Woo Han internally notes that even the dimension he was trapped in wasn't this high tech, Jumayon asks for his official consent. Without a hint of hesitation, Woo Hyun agrees. He's practically daring them to try and find something. With a tap on his tablet, Jumayon decides to begin the verification. A hulking combat bot rises from the floor, its metallic frame and glowing red eyes looking way too serious for a simple skill check. The live chat immediately panics, recognizing the mid-tier model and calling it impossible for a basic character to beat. But as Woo Hyun faces the machine, he's not thinking about the stream. The ghostly whispers of his fallen comrades echo in his mind, their pleas for vengeance sharpening his focus. This isn't a test, it's a warm-up. As the operations manager coolly starts to give the combat order, he's rudely interrupted. Before Jumayon can even finish his sentence, Woo Hyun is a blur of pure, unadulterated violence. The company man looks up from his tablet, utterly confused, staring at the empty spot where a very expensive combat bot used to be. Fueled by the single, echoing command to kill, Woo Hyun had dismantled the machine in an instant. The live chat loses its collective mind, screaming about how he just turned a mid-tier boss into scrap metal with his bare hands. Company man is absolutely floored. Woo Hyun stands over the sparking remains of the combat bot, casually holding its head like a bizarre trophy. As Jumayon stares in utter shock, his own tablet delivers the final verdict: no hacks detected. This wasn't cheating, this was just raw, terrifying power. Meanwhile, back on the stream, Kang Soil and her friend decide the best course of action is to grab some popcorn and enjoy the chaos. But the show's not over yet, as a new, much more serious-looking opponent waits in the wings. Mr. Company Man is absolutely floored, his mind screaming that this is insane. As Woo Hyun stands over the sparking remains of the combat bot, Jumion's own tablet delivers the final verdict: no hacks detected. This wasn't cheating, this was just raw, terrifying power. Just as he's processing this, another scene unfolds nearby. A new guy with striking silver hair steps over his own mechanical victim, coolly announcing the job is done. All the stunned manager can do is stammer out a weak okay, probably rethinking all his life choices. Still reeling, the operations manager scrambles for an explanation. His scanner says no hacks, but his brain says no way. So he proposes a new test to prove Woo Hyun isn't using an autopilot cheat. The idea is that a program can't follow specific, complex commands perfectly, unlike a real player. Without missing a beat, Woo Hyun agrees. The new, supposedly impossible mission: take down 3 bots by only slashing their heads with a chain sickle. The manager smirks, thinking he's finally set a challenge that can't be beaten. The manager lays down his supposedly impossible challenge, but a tiny voice in his head admits he just can't picture this guy losing. Before he can even process that thought, Woo Hyun is a blur of motion. The chain sickle whips through the air, weaving a complex dance of destruction around the 3 charging bots. In what feels like a single instant, the fight is over. The 3 machines simultaneously crumple into heaps of junk, each missing its head. Woo Hyun stands completely unfazed, his glowing eyes practically asking, "Is that all you've got?" The streamer is practically vibrating with excitement, convinced Woo Hyun's weapon has a mind of its own. Her chat room absolutely loses it, collectively deciding that he's the one who's overpowered, not the weapon. Meanwhile, the operations manager is sweating profusely. He silently confirms that he has all the data he needs. This guy is legit, but his professional curiosity is morphing into a greedy obsession. As the game's administrator, he's dying to know if Woo Hyun can defeat an advanced level bot using only a single core ability. Another impossible test is brewing. The operations manager, clearly not a fan of letting people have a nice, quiet win, decides to escalate things. A door slides open, and from the smoky entrance emerges a brand new challenger, a sleek, intimidating advanced training bot with glowing red eyes. The chat room immediately erupts, calling the admin toxic for throwing such an overpowered machine at Woo Hyun. Viewers complain that he's crossed a line, but also admit that if our guy pulls this off, some big organization had better take notice. The new bot steps forward, ready for a fight. As the advanced bot appears, something in Woo Hyun's expression shifts. This new challenger looks unnervingly familiar, triggering a horrible flashback to the real dimension. A brutal scene littered with his fallen comrades. This isn't just a game anymore. Making things 10 times worse, the bot flashes a chilling, human-like smirk, as if it's enjoying this. The calm, collected gamer is gone, replaced by someone filled with pure rage. His weapon flashes into existence, and it's clear he's not just aiming to win, he's aiming to destroy. The advanced bot throws a haymaker, but Woo Hyun moves like he's glitching through the matrix, easily dodging the blow. He retaliates with a kick that sends the robot flying, making it intimately familiar with the back wall. The impact shatters the solid surface. Woo Hyun lands, calmly noting that this bot is on another level and a single clean hit would be disastrous. As the machine lunges again, he stops its metallic fist with one hand, proving he's still the one in charge here. Woo Hyun quickly realizes the bot's armor is ridiculously tough, making it impossible to damage with a single strike. So, he improvises with a new, very sophisticated strategy. If one punch won't work, maybe a few hundred will. He tackles the machine to the ground and starts hammering away with a relentless barrage of attacks. The sheer speed of the assault leaves the commentators speechless. Meanwhile, the chat goes from impressed to slightly terrified, wondering how it's even possible for him to move so fast without getting hit once. The commentators are floored. 1 minute it looked like Woo Hyun was being pushed back, the next he's completely overwhelming the advanced bot with a single core ability. He's in the middle of turning the machine into a dented can when a blue light vaporizes it mid-pummel. Talk about a buzzkill. A man with a tablet calmly states that he ended the test, having collected enough data. Basically, they saw enough. Woo Hyun, robbed of his cathartic rampage, just looks over, finally understanding why his new toy disappeared. The official confirms what everyone with eyes already knew. Fake Woo Hyun is 100% legit, with no external programs involved. Vindicated, the streamer Kang Soil puffs out her chest, proudly telling her audience that she knew it all along. She declares that Woo Hyun's skills are just so insane, they're on the level of a cheat. Asked for a closing statement, our hero just gives an awkward, "Good work, everyone." With over 100,000 viewers tuned in, Soil triumphantly ends the legendary stream, thanking Woo Hyun for the spectacular show. With the test over, the Planet Earth official gives a deep bow, thanking Woo Hyun for generously agreeing to turn their expensive combat bot into a pile of scrap metal. Woo Hyun just shrugs, saying it was nothing, which seems to amuse the official. Just as he's about to leave, our hero stops him. He asks a very pointed question: has there ever been a bug that could trap a player in the game for a long time? The official reasons that a flaw that huge would have sunk the game's reputation. So no, with that lead gone cold, he teleports away. With the show over, the streamer Kang Soil offers to share the massive stream revenue with Woo Hyun, our hero, who apparently has no need for money, politely declines. Internally, Soil panics, realizing her living, breathing clip farm is about to walk away. She tries to play it cool, but knowing she can't just ask him for another collab, she awkwardly promises to call and teleports out. Woo Hyun is just bummed he didn't get any new leads. Suddenly, a message from Jung Naeon pops up, telling him to meet her. Meeting up, Jung Naeon is practically vibrating with excitement over Woo Hyun's first stream, gushing about how the community is blowing up. Our hero, ever the party pooper, flatly states that streaming just isn't his thing. He complains about having to pay attention to viewers instead of just focusing on the game. Not willing to take no for an answer, Nayeon proposes a solution. He just plays, and she'll handle everything else. Before he can protest again, she drags him over to a console and launches them into PvP mode. Woo Hyun is less than thrilled to find out this whole meeting was a PvP ambush. He tries to make an excuse, claiming gaming just isn't his style. Nayeon, ever the drama queen, latches onto him, scolding him for judging the entire game based on the tutorial. Her point accidentally lands, though. He realizes the story mode was a little too much like his traumatic trip to another dimension, but PvP is completely new. Seeing a potential lead, he reluctantly agrees. Nayeon is ecstatic and launches into a rapid-fire explanation of the game modes. Nayeon unveils their first challenge, a 100-player battle royale called Showdown. Assuming he's a total rookie, she suggests they team up and offers to recommend a character build. Woo Hyun coolly turns her down, claiming he already has a good one in mind. In reality, he's recreating the very Superman build that made him an absolute legend in the other world. While he sets up his overpowered character, Nayeon, still treating him like a newbie, decides they should start at the military base, a hot zone swarming with high-level players. This is going to go well. Just when Woo Hyun thought things couldn't get more annoying, Nayeon asks if she can record their game for YouTube. Clearly overwhelmed by her sheer energy, he tells her to calm down but agrees just to get it over with. Ecstatic, Nayeon immediately logs into the match. The system confirms their hot drop at the military base and starts a 60-second countdown. With a cheerful "see you there," she vanishes in a flash of light. Woo Hyun materializes in a grimy, rundown corridor, instantly unimpressed with his surroundings. This place sucks. Just as one player decides to find a new hiding spot, Woo Hyun emerges from the shadows to instantly end his game. Elsewhere, Nayeon receives the kill notification, figuring her rookie partner got lucky. But her amusement evaporates as the kill feed goes haywire. One after another, notifications pop up, all showing Woo Hyun eliminating player after player. Nayeon's jaw drops. The newbie she was planning to carry isn't a beginner. He's a walking disaster zone, and he's just getting started. She can only stare in disbelief. Meanwhile, Woo Hyun effortlessly dispatches his final opponent in the area. As the player hits the deck, he calmly wonders if he's already cleared out everyone nearby. So much for needing a carry. Woo Hyun drops into the match and is immediately ambushed by 4 players. Big mistake on their part. He dismantles the entire squad in seconds without breaking a sweat. Just as he's about to move on, a frantic call comes in. It's Nayeon, his supposed carry, screaming that she's surrounded and needs help. After a quick glance at the map, he sees she's across the road. Without a hint of panic, he tells her he's on his way and asks for her exact spot. She shouts back that she's on the rooftop. So much for him needing a carry. Over the comms, Nayeon warns him to be careful, claiming every floor is crawling with enemies. Woo Hyun's response is a deadpan okay before he simply leaps off the side of the building, taking a shortcut. He lands right in front of 2 stunned players. As one tries to warn his partner about Woo Hyun's insane speed, the other summons a fire attack, vowing to buy some time. That plan goes up in smoke. Woo Hyun closes the gap instantly, grabbing the fiery fist with his bare hand, completely unfazed as his opponent is eliminated. The second player has a complete meltdown, questioning if Woo Hyun is some kind of speed, freak physical build. Screaming his head off, he unleashes a massive blast of dark energy, hoping to overwhelm his opponent. But Woo Hyun isn't impressed. He just gracefully flips right over the flashy attack, knife in hand, like he's dodging a puddle. The player looks up, his jaw hitting the floor in disbelief. Before he can even process the acrobatics, Woo Hyun is on him, delivering a swift strike that ends the fight instantly. So much for backup. With the outside guards handled, Woo Hyun continues his one-man pest control service inside. The elimination feed starts popping off as he effortlessly clears the floors on his way to Nayeon. He reaches the front gate and calmly tells her he's there. Still reeling from his impossible speed, she asks if she should come down to help. Our hero, probably fighting the urge to sigh, just tells her to wait. He doesn't need a carry, he needs her to stay out of the way. He grabs the doorknob, ready to finish this. Inside, Woo Hyun does a quick head count, correcting himself that there are 5 enemies, not 4. He calmly swings the door open to find a welcoming party of 1. An overeager goon immediately lunges from the side with a massive knife, ready to end things. But his moment of glory is cut tragically short. Woo Hyun, looking thoroughly bored, catches the guy's wrist mid-swing, stopping the attack cold. The attacker's brain short-circuits in disbelief. Before he can reboot, Woo Hyun lands a solid strike, instantly taking him out of the game. 1 down. Deciding this one, by one approach, is a complete waste of his time, Woo Hyun mutters that he needs to speed things up, and speed up he does. He he becomes a literal blur, zipping through the rest of the building. The kill feed goes absolutely ballistic as 4 players are eliminated in the span of a single second. Outside, the last remaining guard is completely baffled by the sudden spam of notifications. As a blue loot orb appears right next to her, she can only stare in disbelief, wondering what on earth is happening again. Watching the elimination feed, Nayeon realizes Woo Hyun isn't just winning, he's completely smurfing. Suddenly, in a crackle of blue energy, he materializes right beside her. She jumps back, startled by his silent arrival. While she's impressed by his 14th kill streak, Woo Hyun is a bit more concerned with the massive, glowing chainsaw she's holding. He deadpans a question about whether she took everyone out already, then points at the weapon. Grinning, Nayeon explains it was the only thing she could find. He can only stare, wondering if she ever really needed his help. Nayeon, high on her chainsaw-wielding success, boldly declares that she's going to carry Woo Hyun for the rest of the games. He responds with a deadpan sure, clearly not buying it. What follows is less a partnership and more a one-man demolition derby. The victory screens flash by again and again until they've won 10 times in a row. Nayeon, visibly shaken and exhausted, calls it a day. Internally, her brain is short-circuiting. The guy she thought was an ordinary student is an absolute monster, and now she's determined to get him on her stream. With her brain still smoking from their 10-game win streak, Nayeon makes her move. She practically begs Woo Hyun to hold off on his main quests for just 2 days, promising to return with an official life-changing offer. Woo Hyun, who couldn't care less about her streaming career, shuts her down flat. He informs her he's not interested and wasn't doing those quests anyway. Completely ignoring the rejection, she promises a great deal and logs out in a flash. Alone, Woo Hyun admits the PvP was a wash, no new clues. He logs out back in his quiet apartment. Meanwhile, professional streamer Kang Soil is doing some intense market research, which mostly involves scrolling forums to see if people think she's cute. Finding a complimentary post, she kicks her feet in glee, celebrating her recent broadcast as a massive success. The viewer count had skyrocketed past 100,000, a career high she fears she'll never reach again. Desperate, she wishes she could keep streaming with Woo Hyun, but his cold rejection echoes in her mind. Even if he didn't say it outright, his face made it clear he was done. Still moping, Kang Soil checks her stream earnings for the night. Her jaw practically hits the floor when she sees the number. Looks like streaming with a gaming god pays well. The next day, not taking no for an answer, Nayeon ambushes Woo Hyun at a cafe. She proudly unveils a masterpiece of a PowerPoint she apparently spent all night creating. Her grand proposal. He just plays the game, she handles the rest. Grabbing his arm for emphasis, she asks if that's a deal. Woo Hyun flatly informs her he never said it was. Undeterred, Nayeon pivots to her next big idea at a reality show. The format is simple. A panel of commentators would watch and react to his gameplay footage. She lays out the brilliant division of labor. He plays the game, she handles the talking. She even offers to bring in professional casters and proposes a generous 6/74 profit split. Woo Hyun, looking monumentally unimpressed, repeats that he is not interested. Nayeon assumes he just doesn't understand streaming money, then remembers his recent broadcast with Soil. He confirms he got an email, but couldn't check it thanks to her little cafe ambush. Woo Hyun finally checks the email from Kang Soil, with Nayeon peeking over his shoulder. Nayeon's eyes nearly pop out when she sees the payout, a whopping 6 million won. But Woo Hyun isn't looking at the money. His attention is glued to a donation message Soil forwarded. A mysterious figure named Anonymous Viewer 62 casually welcomes him back to reality and mentions having a special mission. The sweat starts to form on Woo Hyun's brow. This person knows he was trapped in another world, and the number 62 proves they know exactly who he used to be. Woo Hyun's mind races. Who is this person, and how do they know his secret? He shoots up, startling Nayeon, and asks if they can find out who sent the message. She has to break it to him that, thanks to pesky little things called privacy laws, that's a big no. The only way to communicate with a viewer is during a live stream. Realizing this is his only lead, Woo Hyun's expression darkens with resolve. He looks down at Nayeon and agrees to her proposal. He'll start streaming, and she absolutely loses her mind with excitement. On a golden Friday night, while regular folks are out living their lives, the gaming community is glued to their screens. Everyone is buzzing with anticipation for Haxicle's official debut stream, and the chat is already a beautiful disaster. Inside the in-game broadcast studio, the vibe is just as tense. The new professional commentator, Cha Sung-chol, tries to reassure his co-host, who looks like she's about to vibrate out of her seat. He tells her not to worry, admitting that even he was nervous when he got the call. A true professional, calming the rookies. Sung-chol admits he's surprised, saying he never thought anyone besides Kang Soil could get Haxicle on a stream. Naeon just laughs awkwardly, conveniently leaving out the part where she just had to name drop Woo Hyun to get him on board. The broadcast goes live, and the hosts introduce themselves, but the chat couldn't care less. They're here for one person, and they're not being subtle about it. Seeing the impatient mob, Naeon tells everyone to hold their horses. The big reveal. Haxical is already in the game, ready for his reality show debut. The broadcast continues with commentator Sungchul explaining the plan. They'll be watching Haxical, who's rocking a very secretive visor, play the game. Naeon amps up the crowd, asking if they're finally ready to see how the legend plays. In-game, Woo Hyun gets a simple GIT message from his new boss. His radio buzzes to life with a message from the Otherworld Management Bureau. His first mission for this reality show. Play tour guide and rescue some survivors from a forest so they can regroup. What a thrilling start. A new mission alert flashes on Woo Hyun's screen. His thrilling first task is to sneak past a bunch of guards who are hunting for an escaped test subject and join the bureau. Real creative. As he steps into the dense forest, the scenery feels painfully familiar. A flashback hits him. He remembers running for his life through this same kind of place, watching his comrades get taken down by armored goons. Back then, all he could do was flee, but this time is different. A smirk plays on his lips. He's not running anymore. Tired of the whole sneaking part of the mission, Woo Hyun decides to speed things up by simply shouting his location. This genius move immediately gets the attention of some guards rocking high-tech goggles. Spotting their target, the squad leader orders his men to jump him from 3 directions. In an instant, Woo Hyun is the center of attention as armed goons swarm him from all sides. Some charge him on the ground while others leap through the air, blades at the ready. It's a full-on ambush, but our guy looks completely unfazed. This ambush is barely an inconvenience. Woo Hyun's eyes glow ominously as a dark aura flares up, fueled by memories of his fallen comrades. He makes a simple promise to take down every last one of his enemies. The guards unload their weapons, but it's completely useless. With a flick of his wrist, Woo Hyun summons a chain and effortlessly bats away the incoming fire. One poor guard is left staring in disbelief as his weapon just explodes in his hands. That's got to sting. One of the guards, who apparently missed the memo about who's in charge, raises his sword and declares that Woo Hyun is a fool who's already done for. The rest of the squad takes this as their signal to swarm him, blades out and ready to party. Big mistake. Woo Hyun just smirks and whips his chain out. In a split second, he expertly ensnares 2 of the airborne goons, yanking them together mid-flight. He then uses them as a makeshift wrecking ball, slamming them straight into the ground. That's 2 down. Not even pausing for a breath, Woo Hyun brings his foot down hard on another guard, efficiently taking him out of the fight. The remaining goons panic, but their high-tech goggles suddenly glitch out, displaying a privacy error. They literally can't process what's happening. Meanwhile, the commentators are completely losing it. The expert, Cha Song-kil, admits he's never seen a player just ditch strategy to gather all the enemies at once. The viewers in the chat, however, are absolutely loving this chaotic, brain-off approach to combat. Who needs a plan when you're this good? A generous viewer drops a hefty donation, asking the obvious question: is Woo Hyun's absolute being skill just completely broken? The expert, Cha Song-kil, is quick to correct this assumption. He explains that the skill only boosts physical abilities. It doesn't grant the user battle intelligence or weapon mastery. Woo Hyun isn't even using buffs. Song-kil then makes a wild claim: if Woo Hyun had these stats in real life, he'd fight the exact same way. In other words, the skill isn't overpowered, the player is. Just as Woo Hyun finishes his little warm-up exercise, a new, more professional-looking squad arrives on the scene, surrounding him with rifles aimed. Their leader, a man named Kim Cheol, steps forward and introduces himself. He's from the Otherworld Management Bureau, and he calmly tells Woo Hyun to surrender. It turns out this is a government agency that deals with invaders from other dimensions. Their whole gig is trapping dangerous entities inside a mixed-up world where dimensions overlap. So basically, the feds just showed up to the party. Woo Hyun recognizes the fed in charge. It's Kim Cheol, a familiar face from the other side. Apparently, the feeling is mutual. Kim Cheol takes one look at Woo Hyun's stylish, scaped lab rat get-up and immediately orders his team to stand down, even apologizing for the aggressive hello. Woo Hyun explains an agent gave him a walkie-talkie, prompting a grim look from Kim as he realizes that agent didn't make it. As a precaution, Kim asks Woo Hyun to come with them for verification, and our hero, cool as a cucumber, simply agrees. Of course, the moment Woo Hyun agrees to cooperate with the feds, a system window pops up. Apparently, getting detained counts as completing the Join the Otherworld Management Bureau quest. Hey, at least he got a level up out of it. Now sitting in a sterile counseling room at their HQ, Woo Hyun reflects on how he never expected to be here. Back in the other dimension, he was a runaway lab rat taking on shady gigs to fund his revenge. These jobs ranged from abductions to, well, making people disappear, but his biggest moneymaker was fighting reverse planets monsters. Woo Hyun thinks back on his complicated history with the Bureau. In the other world, he was a gig worker for shady firms, clearing out monster-infested areas. This meant he was constantly crossing paths with these government agents. One day they were allies, the next they were ready to throw down. His trip down memory lane is interrupted when an agent named Lee Eugene enters the room. Getting straight to business, she offers him two choices: leave as a normal, powerless civilian under their thumb, or officially join the team he used to fight against. Agent Lee Eugene lays out the terms. If Woo Hyun joins, he won't be an official agent right away. First, he has to get through some government training before they deem him ready for missions. This gives our hero a moment to think. It's a bit of an awkward job offer, considering he permanently retired one of their agents back in the other world. But Eugene wants an answer now. Woo Hyun clasps his hands together, his mind made up. He announces that he will, and of course, that's the cliffhanger. They really left us hanging. Agent Eugene presses for a decision. Woo Hyun considers his options. If he becomes a civilian, he knows he'll just fall back into taking sketchy corporate contracts like before. He's not keen on walking that path again. With his mind made up, he declares that he'll become one of her agents. Eugene is absolutely delighted, telling him he's made the right choice. She lets out a sigh of relief, admitting they've been short-staffed since corporations started scooping up all the newly awakened. She then whispers that she's heard those corporate contracts aren't so great anyway. Agent Eugene continues her sales pitch, throwing some serious shade at the corporations. Apparently, they're newbies at training the awakened and don't take responsibility when things go wrong. The Bureau, however, is the seasoned pro. Woo Han knows she's not wrong. He flashes back to his corporate gig days, where the pay was good but the survival rate was not. He often had to forcefully negotiate his payment, which is exactly how he ended up on the Bureau's radar. Back in the present, Eugene gets his registration started. With the job offer accepted, Woo Hyun asks what's next. Agent Eugene explains the corporate ladder: he'll get trained, prove his abilities, and then be assigned a team. She casually adds that she hopes he ends up on her team. Woo Hyun agrees, admitting he honestly hopes so too. He reveals he's indebted to her from the other world. Apparently, she led a raid on a research facility that saved him and his comrades. Meanwhile, streamer Kang Soil watches this unfold on her broadcast, completely baffled. Players aren't supposed to have actual conversations with NPCs. The commentator, Cha Song-kyul, is absolutely losing his mind. He stammers that Eugene isn't just some pre-programmed NPC, she's a fully adaptive AI, a tech so advanced it was considered impossible for online games. His co-host shoots down the idea that the devs just secretly solved the resource problem, pointing out they would have advertised a breakthrough like that everywhere. She speculates it's a hidden feature, and the only thing that makes Woo Hyun different is that his combat correction is set to 0. Eugene seems to agree, amazed at him. The commentators can barely contain their excitement. Cha Song-kyul predicts this whole event is about to blow up the online forums and says he'll be eagerly awaiting an official statement from the developers. Elsewhere, a mysterious pink-haired woman with a taste for drama sips her drink, thinking this situation is quite intriguing. She even considers trying to get a certain huge figure as a guest on her show. As the stream ends, Woo Hyun waits alone in a battle prep room, wondering when his anonymous contact, viewer 62, is going to appear. A mysterious man in a slick suit makes streamer Jung Naeon an offer she can't refuse. In exchange for his help, she has to be his personal snitch for any messages from anonymous viewer 62. He gets right in her personal space, making it clear he means business. Naeon nervously agrees. Back on stream, she gets a ready message from Woo Hyun and announces the main event, a PvP showdown. The commentators explain that since our boy is a total newbie, he'll be starting from the absolute bottom of the game's 8-tier ranking system. The commentator lays out the grind: 10 wins to reach bronze rank. For a pro, that's about 30 minutes. For a regular player, a casual 2 hours. Just then, a sponsored mission appears on stream, daring Woo Hyun to hit the rank in 30 minutes for a huge cash reward. Naeon frantically messages him the challenge. Our boy just gives a cool, okay signal, completely unfazed by the pressure. The commentators are buzzing as matchmaking completes. Woo Hyun is instantly teleported into a residential combat zone with 10 seconds on the clock. The commentator, Cha Song-kyul, looks a little baffled. He points out that our boy, now known in game as Haxical, is wielding a weapon he's never seen before. Woo Hyun stands ready, holding a pair of simple-looking swords. His opponent, a hooded magic user, is not impressed. He sees a basic melee build and figures this will be a free win if he just keeps his distance. The match countdown begins. As the round starts, the mage immediately launches a powerful, cold explosion. Spell, confident he's about to end this fight before it even begins. The mage's big brain strategy immediately backfires. His cold explosion, spell fizzles out and seems to turn on him, blasting him backward into a nearby building. Well, that was fast. The system announces the end of the first round with Woo Hyun as the winner. Before he can even process the win, the next round starts against the same guy. The opponent takes one look at our boy, realizes he's fighting an expert in disguise, and instantly surrenders. With that anticlimactic victory secured, Woo Hyun is matched for his second game. His second opponent, some edgy Shadow Mancer, is in total shock as his signature, Shadow Spears, attack completely fizzles out. While he panics, Woo Hyun gracefully weaves between the stray projectiles, not even breaking a sweat. Before the poor guy can process his own failure, the system declares another flawless 2-0 victory for Woo Hyun. Next up is the third game. His new challenger is a very angry martial artist who immediately lunges forward, screaming his intent to demolish our hero. But his battle cry is cut short as the match ends almost instantly. Another clean sweep. The poor guy never even saw what hit him. The system wastes no time, immediately queuing up the fourth victim of the day. The rampage continues. In the span of just 20 minutes, Woo Hyun secures 10 flawless victories in a row. For his incredible efforts, the game generously promotes him from normal to bronze. Truly, a legend in the making. Back in the studio, the streamer Jung Ariam, a diamond tier player, looks completely baffled, muttering that she feels robbed. The commentator is equally stunned, but the live chat is going wild. They're all convinced they're watching the greatest player of all time smash every existing record. The commentator tries to make sense of the madness, explaining that even pro players have weaknesses and bad matchups. But our boy Woo Hyun, he couldn't care less. Shadow Mancers, martial artists, mages, they all got the same express ticket to Loserville. His performance is so dominant that a viewer drops a massive 500 Zalodrid donation. While Ariam is hyped for the next ranked game, Songcheol worries about stream snipers. He tries to downplay it, hoping it's nothing, but the chat immediately calls him out for jinxing it. Smooth move, genius. And speak of the devil, the matchmaking system immediately serves up a stream sniper. The 11th match begins in a creepy cemetery, and Woo Hyun's opponent is a very loud, very orange-haired guy. This wannabe hero triumphantly announces to his own stream that he's finally found the hacker, and promises to destroy him live. While the chat goes nuts, Woo Hyun just stands there looking bored out of his mind. Back in the studio, Ariam proudly claims she coached him to ignore trash talkers like this. The match begins and the stream sniper immediately rushes in, screaming insults and ready for the fight of his life. Unfortunately for him, it's a very, very short fight. Before the guy can even land a hit, Woo Hyun unleashes a blinding golden attack that completely overwhelms him. The wannabe hero is sent flying across the cemetery in a pathetic display. Back on stream, the chat goes wild, betting their lungs on Woo Hyun's victory. Our boy simply sighs, thinking he was going to give the guy a chance, right up until he opened his big mouth. With a final, decisive strike, Woo Hyun sends the stream sniper tumbling through the air. He casually lowers his sword, annoyed that the whole thing was such a waste of his time. The system announces his victory for round 1. His opponent, looking absolutely wrecked, can only call him a monster. As the countdown for the next round starts, the sniper knows he's about to get steamrolled again. Panicked, he decides it's time to pull out his trump card, whatever that is. He's clearly not going down without a gimmick. The second round begins, and the stream sniper starts powering up, crackling with golden energy. Woo Hyun takes a moment to observe, thinking his opponent's vibe has certainly changed. The sniper rushes in, unleashing a much heavier attack than before, but Woo Hyun effortlessly parries the strike. The guy is shocked by Woo Hyun's impossibly efficient movements. Instead of backing down, the sniper starts cackling, screaming that he was just going easy on the hacker in the first round. Right, sure you were, buddy. He then gathers his energy for another flashy, overconfident attack. As the sniper's attack connects, it's not the force that gets Woo Hyun's attention, but the insult, hacker. That word rings a bell. A memory flashes of Nayeon cheekily giving him some advice. She told him if anyone ever called him a hacker, he should feel free to completely and utterly wreck them. Back in the present, Woo Hyun's eyes begin to glow with a dangerous golden light. He grips his sword, his expression now deadly serious. Well, looks like the sniper just used the magic word to unlock a world of hurt. The sniper finally gets a clue and notices the menacing purple aura swirling around Woo Hyun. For a second, he looks genuinely spooked, but he quickly shakes it off, trying to convince himself that he's totally at an advantage here. Right, panicked, he resorts to his only move, yelling. He screams at Woo Hyun to stop trying to be cool and launches another flashy golden attack. Their blades collide in an explosion of light as the sniper puts all his desperation into one final, noisy tantrum. The sniper's big, desperate attack clashes with Woo Hyun's blade, and the outcome is pathetic. Woo Hyun effortlessly slices right through the flashy light show, landing a solid strike. The cocky sniper grunts in pain, stumbling back in disbelief. His face twists from shock to pure fury as he starts screaming some truly creative insults. But all his yelling is just noise. With cold precision, Woo Hyun closes the distance and delivers a final, clean slash. The sniper's attack shatters, and just like that, the fight is over. Well, that was embarrassing. The defeated sniper dissolves into a crying puddle of pixels, leaving a single glowing blue orb behind. Watching the broadcast, Seong-cheol observes that Woo Hyun clearly had multiple chances to end the fight but chose not to. He smirks at Nayeon, realizing Woo Hyun was just thoroughly following her advice. Looking a little horrified, Nayeon admits she told him to completely wreck anyone who called him a hacker, but maybe not this much. The live chat explodes, crowning her the creator of this monster as the defeated player asks what the heck Woo Hyun even is. Apparently, that was just the appetizer. The next opponent steps up, and after hearing enough trash talk, Woo Hyun decides to serve up a fresh slice of humble pie. He calmly throws the guy's own words back at him before ending the second round with a single, decisive slash. The game announces another easy victory, but our boy was just getting warmed up. He proceeds to go on an absolute rampage, demolishing player after player for 30 straight wins. The commentators are stunned, with Nayeon pointing out he's already hit gold rank on his first day. After witnessing the absolute demolition derby, the chat is now screaming for one thing's Woo Hyun's character build. Nayeon hesitates, knowing that's like asking a magician for his secret tricks. Still, she nervously asks if he'd mind sharing his setup. Without missing a beat, our boy just casually agrees. Nayeon is completely floored, excitedly promising her viewers she'll post the info online. The chat erupts in disbelief, with one smart cookie pointing out he's just that confident. With that bombshell drop, the hosts end the stream with a dramatic bow. The stream might be over, but the commentators are still buzzing. Seong-cheol is floored, pointing out that a 30-win streak followed by a casual build reveal is guaranteed to set the forums on fire. Soil, practically vibrating with excitement, wonders if Woo Hyun is about to break the world record. The current champion, Battler, holds the record at 76 wins. Seong-cheol smirks, betting the super competitive player is probably already watching their broadcast. As if on cue, the game's community forums absolutely explode with posts about the insane winning streak. Meanwhile, on the game forums, some sweet justice is being served. Remember that loudmouth who accused Woo Hyun of cheating? Turns out he was the one using hacks, and he just got smacked with the permaban hammer. The irony is delicious. The community is now singing Woo Hyun's praises, with some even claiming the current champion, Battler, couldn't beat him. Speaking of the champ, he reads that comment with a less than amused smirk. A few days later, Woo Hyun is back for his next stream, wondering where his mysterious contact, Viewer 62, has gone. Just as Woo Hyun ponders the whereabouts of Viewer 62, he gets a new mission notification. He's summoned by none other than Lee Eugene, a top-tier NPC who greets him as Junior. She asks if he's nervous about his first real assignment. Our boy, completely unfazed, confirms he's ready. The task is simple, really just eliminate some invading entities and close the space they came from. Eugene leads him to a run-down building, casually mentioning it's another mess the corporation's abandoned. Standard Tuesday. Eugene sighs, complaining that corporations have a nasty habit of abandoning things once they've squeezed all the value out. Woo Hyun can't help but agree. It's a familiar, greedy tune. The mission details flash before him: small, insect-type invaders with a low danger level. Great, it's a pest control mission. While the individual creepy crawlies are weak, their strength lies in their massive numbers, making this a seriously annoying cleanup job. At the site, a soldier salutes, and Eugene smoothly confirms they're from the Bureau, getting them waved right through. The door groans open, and even a pro like Eugene admits the scene is crazy. A massive, swirling blue portal dominates the abandoned factory floor, which she notes is a pretty weird place for one to pop up. For Woo Hyun, though, it's not weird, it's familiar. He realizes with a jolt that he's been here before, back in the other world. The mission details called this a small portal, but his memory screams it was at least a medium. While he mulls over this very important discrepancy, Eugene turns to him, asking if he's ready. Just as Woo Hyun and Eugene are about to get down to business, another agent struts onto the scene. This new guy, Choi Hyun-keel, sarcastically wonders why a big shot like Senior Eugene is bothering with such a small-time mission. Eugene is clearly not thrilled to see him, demanding to know what he's doing here. Hyun-keel feigns surprise, claiming their missions just happen to overlap. Eugene isn't buying it, accusing him of plotting something. Playing hurt, he quickly changes the subject and points to Woo Hyun, asking, "Who's the new guy?" Ignoring Woo Hyun, Hyung-chul leans in to give Eugene a smarmy sales pitch, suggesting she quit the bureau and join a big corporation. Eugene's patience has officially left the building. She coldly warns Mr. Choi not to cross the line. Realizing he pushed too far, Hyung-chul throws his hands up in mock surrender, calling her scary before making a theatrical exit. Once the walking headache is gone, Woo Hyun asks who he was, looking completely drained. Eugene explains that Hyung-chul was her very first trainee, but he's been spreading fake rumors ever since a corporation poached him. Meanwhile, in the world of totally oblivious streamers, commentator Cha Song-cheol praises the game's AI for creating a deeper story. Fed up with the drama, Eugene decides it's time to stop talking and get moving. Woo Hyun gives a simple sure, and the two are enveloped in a blue light as they step into the portal. But of course, they weren't alone. Hyung-chul watches from the shadows as the door closes behind them. With a creepy smirk, he tells his buddies it's time to get to work. Looks like Eugene's instincts were spot on. 20 minutes later, inside the inverted world, the welcoming party has already come and gone. A fight has clearly just ended, and Woo Hyun is the one left standing, wiping a cut from his face. His eyes are now glowing a menacing yellow, which is a new and frankly alarming look for him. One of Hyung-chul's agents is down for the count, having learned the hard way not to ambush our boy. Amidst the grim scene, a single red candy wrapper lies on the ground, a strange souvenir from the scuffle. The scene flashes back to an earlier time, giving us a quick interdimensional travel 101. A couple of agents in matching black outfits step through a swirling blue portal. Apparently, this is the express lane to Reverse Planet. The male agent observes that it looks just like the other world, but he barely gets the words out before the dimension decides to violently uninstall itself. The space shatters into a storm of dark, jagged fragments. Watching this chaotic display, Woo Hyun identifies the dangerous event as a phenomenon. Looks like these portals are anything but stable. Just as they step through the portal, Eugene lets out a panicked shout for Woo Hyun to watch out. Before he can react, a blinding light tears through the space, and their trip goes completely sideways. The next thing he knows, Woo Hyun is standing alone in a creepy, purple-lit forest with a little blue orb floating nearby. He takes a look around and comes to a brilliant conclusion. He's been separated from Eugene. So much for a smooth ride. This portal's customer service is clearly non-existent and needs a 1-star review. Woo Hyun grimly notes that these dimensional pathways are about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Before he can even finish the thought, he's ambushed by a welcoming party of giant, skeletal spider monsters. Instead of panicking, he calmly decides to reprioritize his to-do list. Finding Eugene will have to wait. Pest control comes first. With his eyes glowing a fierce gold, he unleashes a powerful slash of blue energy, clearing the area. Elsewhere, a completely different person's hands begin to crackle with golden light, hinting that more trouble is on the way. Meanwhile, someone else is having an electrifyingly bad day. Brilliant golden lightning tears through the darkness as Eugene single-handedly takes on an army of shadowy monsters. It seems Woo Hyun wasn't the only one who got a warm welcome. After turning another wave of creatures to dust, she takes a moment to breathe, muttering that they just keep on coming. She realizes this forest is way too big for a simple portal hiccup, concluding that something is definitely not right. Great, another day, another dimension-sized headache. While Eugene is busy fighting off shadow monsters, she can't help but worry if Woo Hyun is okay. Her concern is quickly interrupted by a flaming blade swinging at her head. It seems the welcome party has a new member, and this one isn't a monster. It's Choi Hyung-chul from Goldshin Electronics, sporting a psycho grin and a fiery arm blade. She barely manages to parry his relentless attacks. With a sinister laugh, he confirms her suspicion, calling his little backstabbing adventure a secret mission. Great workplace drama has officially followed them into another dimension. The backstabbing party gets bigger as a new goon sneaks up on Eugene from behind. He lands a cheap shot, then has the nerve to tell her not to take it personally since he's just following orders. Yeah, right? Eugene clutches her side, realizing the hit was serious and that she needs to bail fast. As another attacker rushes in for the finish, she thinks on her feet. Slamming her hand to the ground, she summons a massive guardian stone wall, giving the goons a brand new obstacle to deal with while she plans her escape. Well, that wall lasted all of 5 seconds. Hyung-chul's fiery powers completely shatter her stone barrier, sending a pained Eugene flying. She hits the dirt hard, but there's no time for a pity party. Furious that his target is still moving, Hyung-chul screams at his lackey to chase her down. The two goons immediately give chase, but Eugene is already scrambling through the trees. Despite her injury, she begins gathering golden lightning in her hands, preparing another electrifying surprise for her unwanted fan club. Instead of running scared, Eugene decides to go on the offensive. With a determined yell, she channels all that crackling lightning into her hands and slams them straight into the ground. The forest floor erupts in a massive flash of golden energy, sending Hyang-kil and his crew flying. While the wanted villain is busy screaming at his useless lackeys to actually do their jobs, Yujin makes a swift exit. By the time the dust settles, she has vanished, leaving nothing but a freshly carved crater in her wake. Hyang-kil throws a full-blown tantrum, blaming his useless goon for letting Yujin get away. While he's busy yelling, the agent in question is hiding in a nearby hole, catching her breath. She reflects that finding this spot was pure luck and wonders what secret mission those goons were blabbering about. Suddenly, the scene cuts to back Wooyin, looking cool as ever, standing over a fresh collection of neutralized insect monsters. The stream chat is losing its mind over his skill, but Wooyin is focused on something else. He knows for sure that he just felt Eugene's presence nearby. Wooyin's intuition screams that something has gone wrong. His suspicion is confirmed when a faint scream cuts through the air. He knows that voice. Without wasting a single second, he bolts through the forest, a blur of motion. Turns out Eugene went from escaping a couple of angry goons to being the main course for a massive nightmare, Fuel Centipede. She's completely pinned down, and the stream chat is having a meltdown, baffled that an agent is losing to a bug and wondering how Wooyin magically knew where to find her. Just as things look grim, Wooyin arrives to spoil the Centipede's meal plan. In a series of impossibly fast strikes, the overgrown bug is turned into a shower of green goo and severed parts. Our hero snatches Eugene from the air, landing without so much as a scuff on his shoes. He gently sets her down, asking if she's alright. Dazed, she can only mutter his name. Wooyin's expression hardens as he sees her wounds. He knows a skilled agent wouldn't lose to a glorified grub, meaning someone else is to blame. Wooyin examines Eugene's injury and realizes this wasn't a bug bite. This was a clean hit from a player's skill. He knows there's only one loser desperate enough to pull this kind of stunt, Choi Hyang-kil. Our hero deduces that Hyang-kil's crew must have jumped in right after the dimensional rift appeared. Meanwhile, the commentators are also confused by this development. They point out that this ambush was way too early for Hyang-kil's usual sneaky style. They can only conclude the game's AI is involved, making this whole situation way more interesting. Eugene, looking worse for wear, tells Wooyin that she only temporarily lost Hyang-kil's crew. Since using her skills would basically send up a flare, she urges him to escape. Our hero, however, decides that's terrible advice and tells her to hide while he deals with them. Eugene panics, insisting he can't handle a veteran awakened alone. But Wooyin, ever the cool customer, simply states that he has a plan. He activates a skill and vanishes, leaving Hyang-kil's clueless minions to search the forest, wondering where their target disappeared to. Hyang-kil's goons track Eugene to a creek, feeling pretty smug about cornering their target. One of them volunteers to go down and grab her, but his big moment is interrupted by a fiery blast that sends him flying. The next thing he knows, a glowing blade is resting near his face, and he's looking up at our hero. The terrified lackey tries to play dumb, claiming a path collapsed and he got separated from his team. Wooyin, sporting a digital visor, seems completely unconvinced by this terrible acting job. The goon, apparently auditioning for a villain role, tries to play buddy with Wooyin, asking if he's still clueless about the situation. He leans in with a smirk, promising that Wooyin will get to meet Eugene again real soon, right after he takes a permanent nap. He unleashes a surprise attack, swinging a flaming blade with everything he's got, but his grand moment falls flat. In a flash, Wooyin completely reverses their positions, pinning the terrified lackey to the ground with a look of utter boredom on his face. The goon, overflowing with unearned confidence, makes a sinister promise. He tells Wooyin he'll get to see Eugene again real soon, right after taking a permanent nap. Without warning, he swings a blazing hot blade, aiming to finish the fight before it even starts. But his grand finale falls hilariously flat. In an instant, their positions are completely reversed. The goon is now the one pinned to the ground, looking up in absolute shock as Wooyin casually stops his attack, looking like he's just been mildly inconvenienced. The goon on the ground can only curse his fate, realizing he's been thoroughly humiliated. Meanwhile, another lackey suddenly crumples to the snow, clutching a serious injury out of nowhere. His teammates rush over in a panic, completely baffled. Then, they spot a targeting light flickering in the woods and realize they're being picked off. One of them heroically decides to play medic while the other, clearly the brains of the operation, charges off to chase Wooyin. He confidently declares he's got this. Spoiler, he doesn't. The self-proclaimed genius charges into the snowy woods but immediately loses his target. He stops, confused, muttering that Wooyin couldn't have gone far. Something suddenly spooks him, and he foolishly wonders if it was just a bird. Spoiler alert, it wasn't a bird. Wooyin materializes directly behind him with a chilling stare. Before the goon can even scream, Wooyin delivers a single, precise blow, and the guy's heroic chase ends with an unscheduled nap in the snow. Back at the clearing, the last goon plays doctor for his injured teammate, desperately telling him to hang on. It's a touching moment of battlefield friendship, right before a blade flashes down and brings the rescue mission to a very permanent end. The would-be medic can only stare in horror, calling his attacker unhinged. Just then, Wooyin strolls out of the forest, looking utterly unimpressed. The goon demands to know what happened to his buddy, but Wooyin's only response is an intimidating silence, which is somehow way worse. Wooyin casually reveals his weapon, and the last surviving goon's eyes go wide, realizing exactly what he's looking at. But before he can have a proper freak out, a new player enters the game. An agent in a blue suit unleashes a nasty skill called Stone Edge, and sharp rocks erupt from the ground around the goon. Still, the guy channels all his rage at Wooyin, screaming that he's going to take him down. "Dude, read the room, you've got bigger, pointier problems right now." Wooyin effortlessly bats away the rock spikes, looking more bored than threatened. This really seems to get under the agent's skin, who roars that he's not done yet. He slams his palms into the ground, activating a new skill, Earth Wave. In an instant, the entire forest floor rips apart, churning into a massive tidal wave of rock and dirt that barrels straight towards Wooyin. Despite the incoming apocalypse of Earth, Wooyin just stands there, calmly watching it approach. Talk about being unbothered. As the apocalyptic wave of rock and trees hurtles forward, Wooyin's eyes begin to glow a menacing gold. Apparently, he's decided this has gone on long enough. With a single, almost lazy swing of his sword, he slices the entire attack clean in two. The massive wave splits apart, crashing down harmlessly on either side of him. The agent can only stare, sweating in his fancy suit, calling Wooyin a monster. Understatement of the year, my dude. Wooyin stands in the calm eye of the storm he just created, completely unscathed. Not one to take a hint, the agent goes all in with his final skill, Stone Horn. A massive rock beast erupts from the ground and throws a punch the size of a Fiat. Wooyin meets the colossal stone fist with his sword, his arm glowing as he effortlessly stops the attack cold. Seeing this, the agent completely loses it, screaming for Wooyin to stay away. It sounds less like a threat and more like he's just seen a ghost. Wooyin absorbs the blow and leaps back, looking like he's finally decided to stop playing around. With a single, fluid motion, Wooyin's sword slices straight through the colossal stone fist. There's no dramatic struggle, no contest of strength, just complete and utter annihilation. The rock monster's arm explodes into a shower of pebbles and dust, the attack completely nullified. The agent drops to his knees, his body trembling as he stares at the aftermath. Overwhelmed by the impossible display of power, he can only mutter in disbelief. "Yeah, buddy, it seems you brought a pebble to a landslide fight and are just now realizing it." With the fight over, Wooyin finally lets out a breath as the livestream chat absolutely loses its mind. The streamer, Soil, is left speechless, wondering how he just wiped the floor with 3 elite agents so effortlessly. But our boy isn't celebrating, clutching a fresh wound. He grimly notes that he's still not as strong as he was back in the other world. Standing over his fallen opponents, he decides to investigate. After a quick pat down of the agents he just put on ice, Wooyin finds nothing but a cryptic message. Deciding to leave the boring investigation part to the bureau, he checks out his real prize, the loot drop. He snags a boomerang dagger, a bracelet for faster skill spamming, and a necklace with a built-in pocket dimension. He reflects on how convenient this is back in the other world. Figuring out item effects was a whole trial and error nightmare. With his new gear automatically equipped, he decides he's done here. With his new toys equipped, Wooyin gets serious. He knows he has to clear this inverted world, and fast, before Lee Eugene's condition gets any worse. No pressure, right? Just gotta speedrun a hell dimension. As he prepares for whatever's next, Lee Eugene can only watch in complete awe. But her moment of admiration is interrupted when a massive monster bursts from the shadows. The game helpfully announces this party, Crasher as the Emperor Scorpion. Guess they're not starting with the small fry. As the giant Emperor Scorpion looms, Agent Lee Eugen is having a moment. At first, she's sweating bullets, muttering about her terrible luck. But then, she has a change of heart, deciding it's actually a good thing the monster appeared here. Apparently, she'd rather face it herself than let some junior agent get turned into a shish kebab. The Scorpion, however, isn't waiting for her to finish her self-pep talk. It fires a massive purple blast her way, but just before she's erased, another agent with glasses steps in, their hand crackling with golden energy, ready to handle this problem solo. Just as Agent Lee prepares to get turned into a purple smear on the floor, her glasses-wearing colleague makes his grand entrance. He casually raises a hand, unleashing a wave of crackling golden energy that spreads out and completely swallows the monster's attack. The deadly blast just fizzles out of existence, much to Lee's confusion. While she's still processing the save, the Emperor Scorpion looms over the new guy. He, however, seems completely unbothered by the giant, angry bug monster that's ready to pounce on him. Well, so much for that epic showdown. The fight is over before it even starts, and it wasn't the glasses guy who won. Out of nowhere, Bak Wooyun is standing on the defeated monster, asking a stunned Lee Yujin if she's okay. While she's still processing that her junior just soloed a boss, the dimension begins to crack apart. With their escape route collapsing, Wooyun offers the only logical solution, a piggyback ride. Because what better way to escape a crumbling reality than with a lift from the guy who just broke it? With the dimension shattering like cheap glass, Wooyun tells a stunned Lee Yujin to hold on tight. He then proceeds to piggyback her through a swirling blue portal, making a clean getaway. The moment they're out, his system floods with notifications. Raid complete, level up, ability points gained. Nothing like getting rewards for breaking reality. Meanwhile, back at the Dimensional Management Bureau HQ, team leader Kim Cheol is getting some bad intel. He's been told Eugene was injured in an ambush by another Awakened, which is not quite what happened. Back at HQ, team leader Kim Cheol is having a full-blown meltdown over corporations crossing the line. He asks Wooyun what became of the agents who ambushed Eugene. With the emotional range of a brick, Wooyun flightly admits he took care of them, all of them, alone. This casual confession about single-handedly neutralizing an entire squad leaves Cheol utterly baffled. Wooyun slides a locked phone over, calling it evidence. Relieved to have something to work with, Cheol tells him to go rest. But as Wooyun leaves, he suddenly stops, realizing something. Team leader Kim Cheol gives Wooyun some unsolicited advice, telling him to cool down until the next opportunity arises. It's his gentle way of saying, please don't go soloing another army for a while. Wooyun quietly agrees, but the moment he does, his vision fills with system notifications. Apparently, his first practical mission for the Bureau was also a game quest, and he just leveled up. Meanwhile, two commentators are wrapping up their broadcast, calling the mission a wrap. The male host admits it was way more exciting than he'd anticipated. But just as his co-host is about to check the viewer reactions, her tablet lights up with a new alert. Some mysterious whale named Anonymous Viewer 62 has just dropped a massive donation. Wooyun gets the same notification. While the streamer he's with freaks out over the cash, he ignores it, focusing on the message. Viewer 62 congratulates him on passing his first trial and offers a special mission. Viewer 62 floods Wooyun's vision with messages, dropping cash with each one. The mysterious benefactor welcomes him back to reality, offers a special mission, and promises to be his #1 fan from now on. Wooyun, completely unfazed, figures he'll get the details after the broadcast and tells the streamer to carry on. Back on the couch, his co-host is having a quiet meltdown, wondering if he's somehow blind to the massive donation. After a quick mental reboot, she snaps back into her energetic host persona, ready to announce the next PvP match. With her professional smile back in place, the host announces the next event, a 5-on-5 team game called Warfare. The chat immediately loses its collective mind. Viewers complain that team games are boring and demand one-on-one duels instead. Some even accuse the organizers of trying to protect someone's win record. The host just sweats nervously, admitting she totally saw this reaction coming. But with a confident wink, she declares that they'll change their tune once the show begins. Then, let's begin. She cheers, kicking off the match. The match begins, and it's a classic escort mission. Our boy Wooyun lands on the attack team, surrounded by 4 other players who seem way too excited about this. Back in the studio, the commentators lay out the simple rules. Push the very normal-looking white truck to the goal while the other team tries to stop them. The female host wonders aloud how the new superstar will handle actual teamwork. As the first round kicks off, the truck lurches forward, and Wooyun's new teammates run alongside, hyping themselves up for the big push. Instead of playing follow the truck like a normal person, Wooyun just turns and walks away. The commentators are confused for a hot second before they realize his genius plan. He's not running, he's flanking. While his teammates babysit the objective, Wooyun goes on a solo mission. He bursts into a sprint, becoming a blur as he leaps across rooftops and crashes through windows. The chat argues about whether one man can stop 5, but the hosts are just stunned. At this rate, he's about to collide with the entire enemy team all by himself. The enemy team spots a shadow flying through the air and braces for impact. But this isn't a team fight, it's a one-man ambush. Wooyun lands gracefully, and before anyone can even process his arrival, he's already reaching for a weapon. In one fluid motion, a throwing knife leaves his hand, becoming a silver streak. It finds its target instantly, taking one of the defenders out of the round. The guy's teammate can only stare in utter shock, wondering how their 5-on-1 advantage just got a little smaller. The enemy team finally realizes they've been flanked, with one guy screaming a little too late. Before anyone can react, Wu Yun becomes a one-man wrecking crew, and the kill feed explodes with his name. 2 more defenders are swiftly taken out of the match, leaving their remaining teammates in total shock. Seeing their entire defense get dismantled, one player bravely decides to hold Wu Yun off himself, telling his last ally to focus on the objective. He draws his sword, ready for an epic showdown, while our boy just watches, completely unfazed. So much for that epic showdown. The defender's heroic sacrifice is over in a blink. 2 more notifications pop up on the kill feed, and just like that, the round is won. Back by the objective, Wu Yun's teammates can only stare at the victory screen in utter confusion, having done absolutely nothing. The commentators are just as shocked. Soil admits she expected a carry, but didn't think the round would end instantly. Her co-host nervously wonders if Wu Yun is just busy and trying to finish the game quickly. The new round kicks off, labeled a deathmatch, but it's more like a one-sided beatdown. An opponent rushes in, only to be immediately overpowered and sent flying by Wu Yun's overwhelming force. Landing gracefully amidst the chaos, Wu Yun's impact cracks the ground as 2 more players are instantly taken out of the fight. The game then shifts to a control point, where our boy decides subtlety is overrated. A massive explosion erupts, completely wiping out the enemy's defensive position. It's less of a game and more of a demolition project. The remaining enemies finally get a clue and start screaming for someone to stop Wu Yun. But it's way too late for that. He moves like a shadow, deflecting every attack they throw at him with 0 effort. He lands right in their formation, and 2 more players are instantly out of the game. The final objective, Flashpoint, is captured in a blink. Wu Yun stands over the defeated team, flag in hand. Turns out, he got a pentakill in every single round and just wanted to get the match over with. Just as the match ends, a massive donation alert lights up the screen. The mysterious viewer 62 drops a cool 3 million won, along with a new, special mission. While the streamer absolutely loses her mind over the cash, brainstorming parties, and new gear, Wu Yun is completely unfazed. He simply asks her to send a screenshot of the message. The mission is to unlock a new game system by playing more, either PvP or PvE. Wu Yun lets out a wary sigh. Apparently, his work is never done. For now, Wu Yun decides he'll just play along with whatever weird game his mysterious benefactor, Viewer 62, is cooking up. A few days later, he arrives at the Dimensional Management Bureau's training facility after getting a text from Agent Lee Yujin. Apparently, she's injured and can't train him herself, but has graciously found a substitute. He finds Yujin with her hand all wrapped up. After a quick hello, she spots someone arriving behind him. It seems his substitute teacher has just made their grand entrance. Stepping into the training room is his new instructor, a woman who introduces herself as Kim Hana. Wu Yun's internal system immediately blows up with notifications from jealous viewers who can't believe his luck. He calmly greets her, but his mind flashes back to their last meeting. He remembers her clearly, the second most powerful agent in the Bureau and an absolute menace in the other world. Before he can dwell on it, Yujin cheerfully announces she's leaving, admitting she actually snuck out. Wu Yun is stunned, but all he gets is a cheeky "oops" before she's gone. With a final, cheerful shout, Yujin entrusts Wu Haeyun to his new teacher and bolts for the exit. Trying to get a read on him, Hana asks if he prefers a longsword or a shortsword. Wu Yun's blunt reply, both. That's all the invitation she needs. Deciding to check his skills firsthand, she challenges him to a duel on the spot. Meanwhile, the commentators watching this whole thing are completely baffled by the sudden turn of events. Back in the commentary booth, the hosts are trying to make sense of this. The woman casually assumes it's a normal sparring match, but her colleague is visibly sweating. He points out that most players don't even use swords. This is a special event that's only happening because their boy Wu Yun basically has plot armor. This revelation makes her absolutely lose it, just as the viewer chat explodes in disbelief. Down in the arena, Wu Yun reflects that the game's AI is far more advanced than he ever imagined, creating a unique story based on his choices. As they prepare to spar, Wu Yun has a revelation. He always assumed the game's adaptive AI had limits, but now he sees the truth. His actions aren't just following a pre-set story, they're creating a whole new one, just like in the real world. Getting down to business, Hana suggests they keep it simple and spar using only their swords. No special abilities allowed. But our guy shuts that down immediately. With a deceptively innocent look, he tells her that, unfortunately for her, that's just not going to be possible. Wu Yun explains that, whoops, his body enhancement ability is always active. It's just a thing he has to deal with. Hana, looking completely unimpressed, says she'll try to tone her own skills down then. Sure she will. The instant the match begins, she launches herself at him, her wooden sword glowing with dangerous green energy. Not wasting a second, Wu Yun parries the first strike. With a sharp crack of wood on wood, their friendly spar is officially underway. and it's clear neither of them is holding back. Hana's idea of toning it down is apparently coming at him like a human missile, her wooden sword glowing with a menacing green aura. Woo Yun meets her strike for strike, the force of their clash sending them both flying backward. In the commentary booth, the hosts are floored by the display. The woman recognizes the moveset as the famous God of Wind build. But her colleague hits her with a fun fact: Hana isn't using the build. The build was literally inspired by her. Turns out, Woo Yun is sparring with the original legend herself. Up in the commentary booth, even the experts are stunned. Seong-cheol can't believe Woo Yun is actually matching the legend's ridiculous speed. But our guy is feeling the heat. He realizes this isn't just about moving fast. Hana is methodically picking apart his defense, striking at every tiny opening. Seeing this, Hana cracks a terrifyingly happy smile. Apparently, the warm-up is over. She decides she can finally take this fight seriously, and her aura explodes with a new, menacing purple glow as she prepares her next move. Hana's serious move is a casual vortex of green energy that completely demolishes the arena floor. Woo Yun barely dodges, which is exactly what she expected. As the live chat loses its mind over the sheer power display, Hana genuinely compliments him, admitting he's more amazing than she anticipated. Woo Yun offers a quiet thank you, but internally, his thoughts are less optimistic. He calculates that if this were a real battle, his odds of winning would be a pitiful 20%. So much for an even match. After the friendly beatdown, Hana seems impressed and asks Woo Yun who his sword master was. He hits her with the most protagonisty answer possible: he's self-taught. Naturally, Hana, somehow not questioning this ridiculous claim, seems pleased and tells him to follow her. A barrage of system windows confirms the sparring mission is complete, and Woo Yun gets a ton of level ups for his trouble. See, getting your butt handed to you by a legend is great for EXP. She leads him to an armory, where a guy named Hyunwoo says it's time for a real weapon. In the armory, Hana explains the obvious. Woo Hyun's current sword is just a fancy stick with no special abilities. After Hyunwoo tells our guy to take his time and then dips, Woo Yun browses the legendary weapons with zero excitement. He finally spots a wicked-looking red and black spear, grudgingly admitting it's an okay one. This okay spear, the vampiric spear Dragus, just so happens to boost cutting power, heal its user by absorbing blood, and grant blood control. You know, casual stuff. But as he decides to grab it, he freezes, completely confused. Just as he's about to grab the spear, another weapon catches his eye. It's a menacing black greatsword called the Soul Eater. Its stats are completely busted indestructible, gets stronger by eating souls, and heals him when he deals damage. Totally fair. Woo Yun is stunned, wondering why a top-tier black market item is just sitting in a government armory. He grabs the hilt, and a flash of his old, battle-hardened self reminds him this was his favorite weapon. Snapping back to reality, he confirms his choice to Hana, who finds his pick interesting. The agent calmly requests the ownership transfer for the Soul Eater, leaving Hana completely speechless. Apparently, new agents are supposed to get a starter weapon with 2 measly perks, not a mythical blade that eats souls for breakfast. Over on the live broadcast, the chat is in full meltdown mode over Woo Yun's ridiculous luck. The commentator, Seong-cheol, points out this isn't even the first time, reminding everyone about the mid-game necklace he scored earlier. His theory is simple: Reverse Planet's high-risk, high-reward system is just showering Woo Yun with overpowered gifts for taking on impossible challenges. The commentators continue their breakdown of Woo Yun's insane luck. Seong-cheol lays it all out: our guy flawlessly escaped a secret lab and held his own against a pro agent. Naeun connects the dots, figuring the ridiculously overpowered Soul Eater is just the grand prize for his perfect performance. Back in the armory, the weapon transfer is officially completed. Not wasting a single second, Hana looks at Woo Yun, now armed with a mythical sword, and suggests they immediately go for a raid to test it out. Hana teleports them to a frosty mountain peak. Woo Yun is surprised to find a portal at this altitude, but Hana claims the climb was a great warm-up. They both share a deadpan look, remembering the guard who assured them it was just a little hike. Anyway, business time. Hana explains this is the home turf for wolf-type monsters. According to the system window, they're low level, but she warns that their territorial nature means a whole pack is about to come crashing their party any second now. Woo Yun seems less than impressed by the incoming monster horde. He notes that beast types can be tricky, but anything below B rank is basically just target practice. Their aggressive approach just saves him the trouble of hunting them down. Hana chimes in from the sidelines, telling him she'll only interfere if things look really bad, but for now, he's on his own. Accepting the challenge, Woo Yun summons the Soul Eater from his shadow storage. The menacing blade materializes just as the ground begins to shake with the sound of approaching paws. With his eyes glowing gold, Woo Yun confirms the party has arrived. A pack of very large, very angry purple wolves comes charging out of the forest, pouncing straight for him. Deciding to skip the appetizer and go straight for the main course, he announces he's making the first move. Launching himself into the air, he declares he's using his full power. He brings the Soul Eater down in a single, devastating arc that crashes into the entire pack, sending the beasts flying. So much for a warm-up. A single devastating swing cleaves through the air, sending the entire wolf pack into oblivion. It was less of a fight and more of a total system wipe. A notification then pops up, helpfully announcing that the Soul Eater's cutting power has increased, because apparently, shotting a horde wasn't impressive enough. Back in the commentary booth, the host's jaws are on the floor. The co-host marvels that he swings the massive blade like it's a feather, while the expert, Cha Songchul, immediately donates 50,000 won, blown away by his amazing control. With the battle over before it even began, Wu Yun takes a moment to admire his handiwork. He thinks to himself that the Soul Eater just fits differently than any other weapon. It's his favorite for a reason. Watching from the sidelines, Hannah's cool demeanor completely shatters. She stammers in disbelief, wondering if he just pulled off the legendary Heavenly Moon Slash, a high-level skill that should be impossible for him. For someone who was ready to let him handle things solo, she now looks like she's seen a ghost. Just as the commentators express their confusion, two enormous, crackling tiger entities emerge, proving the real fight is just getting started. The new wave of enemies charges, but Wu Yun meets them with another casual swing that turns the entire pack into digital dust. He's not fighting, he's deleting. In the commentary booth, the experts are scrambling for answers. They note his technique is on par with a top-tier agent's signature move, yet his records show he has zero formal training. A streamer watching live speculates he learned it in the Colosseum, a wild theory that immediately gets a donation from a curious viewer. While they all play detective, Wu Yun continues his effortless rampage. Without missing a beat, Wu Yun leaps forward, bringing his Soul Eater down on another unfortunate monster. The impact sends a shockwave through the ground, instantly neutralizing the target. Watching from a safe distance, Agent Hana's initial disbelief melts away into a smirk of pure admiration. She realizes calling him excellent is a massive understatement. As if to prove her point, a series of system notifications pop up. With every enemy he deletes, the cutting power of his favorite weapon just keeps getting stronger. Talk about a broken build. Just as the battlefield goes quiet, the ground begins to rumble. Wu Yun barely has time to get into a defensive stance before a colossal, spectral wolf crashes through the forest canopy, its jaws wide open. The commentators absolutely lose it, identifying the beast as the Silver Wolf, a notorious captain-level monster famous for turning new players into digital paste. Unimpressed, Wu Yun just tightens his grip. The wolf throws a punch the size of a small car, ready to flatten our boy, but he stands his ground, preparing to meet the attack head-on. The Silver Wolf's house-sized paw comes crashing down, intent on turning Wu Yun into a digital smear on the ground. Live on stream, Neon yells that he's getting pushed back, and she's not wrong. For a moment, it looks like he's losing the world's worst arm wrestling match. But Wu Yun just digs his heels in with a grunt. With a sudden burst of strength, he shoves the paw aside. Before the beast can recover, he spins and unleashes a brutal upward slash, driving his blade straight through the monster's jaw. Wu Yun admits this giant spectral dog is definitely a step up from the usual trash mobs. However, with a smirk and a flash in his eyes, he decides that's completely irrelevant. Declaring the beast is nothing. He unleashes a single, perfect slice that splits the monster clean in two. The oversized wolf is deleted before it can even register the attack, and what's his reward for shotting a captain-level enemy? Another system notification, of course. His Soul Eater gobbles up the wolf's soul, getting yet another permanent damage buff. Seriously, this sword's power scaling is just ridiculous. Just as Wu Yun catches his breath, a new challenger appears, a woman with striking purple hair. She compliments him on his performance, adding that she almost had to jump in because that wolf was way stronger than advertised. Meanwhile, Neon is having a meltdown on stream, pointing out the mission was supposed to be a cakewalk, not a B-rank nightmare. The expert commentator theorizes that maybe the game's difficulty scales up for ridiculously overpowered players. As everyone processes this, Wu Yun and his new friend notice a bigger problem: the dungeon hasn't closed. This is not normal. The purple-haired woman tells Wu Yun to follow her, determined to figure out why the dungeon hasn't closed. They venture deeper into the eerie digital forest until they stumble upon something completely out of place: a giant, glowing egg resting in a nest. Because why would this mission be straightforward? Before they can even process this bizarre discovery, the egg begins to crack violently. The woman warns him to be careful, but it's too late. A blinding golden light erupts from the shell as whatever's inside prepares to make its grand entrance. After a dramatic light show, the giant egg hatches to reveal a tiny, ridiculously fluffy puppy. Our heroes are stunned, and the livestream chat collectively loses its mind. Since Reverse Planet doesn't even have a pet system, nobody has a clue what's going on. The woman points out how bizarre it is for an otherworldly creature to be friendly. Wooyan, ever the pragmatist, asks if they should just take it out. But his new partner overrules him, deciding the creature is too cute and weird to eliminate. Instead, it's a specimen for the lab. Wooyan agrees, grabbing the pup as the dungeon finally collapses around them. After a quick trip to the Dimensional Management Bureau, our heroes get some confusing news. A researcher explains their fluffy discovery isn't an otherworldly life form, but likely a summoned entity. The catch: nobody present has a summon adorable puppy skill, so they think it was created from the other dimension. Wooyan asks if the Bureau will protect the creature, but it's a no-go. Apparently, the little guy has already completed an ownership imprint. Right on cue, the puppy starts happily rubbing against Wooyan's leg. It seems our stoic hero just got adopted. Just as Han tries to process being a new dog dad, a system window confirms that his fluffy companion is now registered as a lightning wolf pet. Before he can ponder the non-existent pet system, a blaring red alert flashes across his vision. The entire server is going down for emergency maintenance in 5 minutes. Back in the studio, the commentators are stunned. Chae Songkil connects the dots, noting how Han acquired a pet right before a sudden update announcement. He declares it's far too convenient to be a simple coincidence. The game is clearly scrambling. The chat room explodes with conspiracy theories about the suspiciously convenient timing. With the servers going down, the commentators have no choice but to awkwardly end their stream, leaving everyone hanging. But surprise, surprise, someone very important was watching. Over at Planet Earth's US headquarters, an executive switches off the broadcast. In the conference room, the development team leader, Sophia, is having a minor breakdown. She complains that this is the same troublemaker who exposed the secret AI they didn't even know existed. Her colleague calmly confirms they've been watching Wooyan for a while. Sophia, the head developer, is having a full-blown meltdown. She reveals this emergency update is so secret that even her own team was left in the dark. Her colleague realizes only one person could pull this off: Isaac, the game's former lead developer. This certified genius has been conveniently missing, and Sophia grumbles that he obviously went into hiding on purpose. Still, she's shocked he'd hijacked the entire server. To make matters worse, she asks about DS, but is told the system is completely unresponsive. It seems their problems are just getting started. The situation gets even spicier. It turns out the silent super system Deuce was an AI built by the runaway genius Isaac. And what a coincidence, it went completely offline the moment he vanished. Now in full-blown crisis mode, Sophia orders her team to hunt for any other secret updates Isaac might have planted. When her subordinate questions if that's even possible, she slams her desk, insisting they have to find them. With a menacing glare, she puts Wooyan on a priority watch list and vows that whatever Isaac is plotting, she's going to shut it down. While the developers scramble, Wooyan is suddenly yanked out of the streamer's broadcast, his digital form dissolving into code. Just as things quiet down, a massive notification appears on his screen. The mysterious, anonymous viewer 62 has just dropped a cool 5 million won. The message congratulates him on completing a special mission he didn't even know he was on. Before he can process the sudden payday, a new directive comes through for his next mission. He'll need to find a comrade he can trust. As Wooyan ponders his new mission to find a trustworthy comrade, he meets up with his friend, Neon. He's convinced his anonymous benefactor must be a game developer, given the inside nature of the quests. Neon agrees, pointing out how the game suspiciously went into maintenance the moment he did something interesting on stream. Wooyan dismisses this as a wild coincidence, but she quickly changes the subject. With a huge smile, she announces the real reason they met. He's officially received a recruitment offer from the SSR Cup. Looks like his little stunt got some serious attention. Neon clarifies that the SR Cup is the game's biggest PvP tournament, usually for pros and influencers. Wooyan, bless his heart, can't figure out why they'd want him as a coach. Neon spells it out. He's the hottest topic online, and his skills are so ridiculously good that making him a coach is a safer bet than letting him compete. As he considers taking on a disciple, his secret mission to find a trustworthy comrade flashes in his mind. The timing is just too perfect. He agrees, and Neon is ecstatic for the sweet content. A few days later, Neon and a commentator kick off their stream with a bombshell announcement: Wooyan, aka Haxical, is officially joining the SSR Cup as a coach. The chat goes wild, with most fans agreeing he's just too overpowered to compete as a regular player. The commentator questions if player skill translates to coaching, but Neon brushes it off. First, Wooyan has to climb the ranks from his current gold tier. As he prepares for his first survival match, a new mission flashes on screen: get 40 kills without any weapons for a 3 million won reward. Simple stuff. The commentators absolutely lose their minds as a new jackpot mission pops up: 40 kills in survival, no weapons allowed. The chat explodes, with half the viewers convinced he'll finally fail and the other half ready for the highlight reel. Without a hint of hesitation, Woo Yun accepts the bonkers challenge. He's immediately dropped into a solo match on a military base map. While most would be scrambling for gear, Woo Yun calmly activates a scan, instantly pinpointing 19 other players nearby. Looks like the hunting season is officially open. With 40 kills on his to-do list, Woo Yun decides to skip the pleasantries and get right to work. He launches himself from the building, moving with a speed that defies all logic. He instantly closes the distance on some poor soul who was just trying to have a nice, quiet match. Before the guy can even blink, Woo Yun delivers a single, devastating punch that ends his game immediately. Neon and the commentators stare at their monitors in absolute shock, while the chat explodes with viewers who literally can't believe how fast he is. What follows isn't so much a fight as it is a one-man wrecking crew getting to work. The kill feed absolutely explodes as Woo Yun blitzes through the military base, sending player after player back to the main menu. In a matter of moments, his kill count hits a ridiculous 18. Having single-handedly cleared the entire area, he casually shakes his hand and decides to head for the center of the map. Meanwhile, Neon's brain has officially short-circuited. She just stares blankly, muttering that maybe it's time for a career change. Woo Yun finds his next opponent, an edgy-looking player just sitting on a concrete block. He goes in for a lightning-fast kick, but to everyone's surprise, the guy actually dodges. The chat immediately loses its collective mind, screaming that Woo Yun must be hacking. But before the player can celebrate his one successful move, Woo Yun unleashes a furious combo that sends him flying. Back in the studio, commentator Seong-kil suggests it must be a rare body, enhancing build, while his partner gawks at the unprecedented kill log, calling it extraordinary. The commentator is practically losing his mind. With an insane 39 kills under his belt, Woo Han is just one elimination away from his target. His final opponent, a player in a brown hood, squares up, ready for a fight. Woo Han rushes in and throws a quick jab, but the hooded player actually manages to block it. For a glorious half-second, it looks like a real fight might break out. But that hope dies instantly as Woo Han's follow-up punch lands clean, and a vicious kick sends the poor soul flying, ending his match right there. With his final target in sight, Woo Hyun finds himself in a surprisingly decent brawl. Back in the studio, the commentators are losing their minds, comparing the showdown to a professional martial arts match while the live chat wildly speculates about his opponent's identity. Woo Hyun, however, is unimpressed. He admits the guy's moves aren't half bad, but his patience has run out. Deciding he's had enough fun, he closes the distance. A single, devastating punch sends the final player rocketing into a nearby wall, ending the match with a decisive crash. The final opponent sits there, coughing up digital dust and mumbling excuses about using the wrong build. Classic. Woo Yun, ever the sportsman, tells the guy it was fun and hopes for a proper fight next time, leaving his victim totally baffled. The match ends, officially crowning Woo Yun the winner with a flawless 40-kill streak. Back in the studio, just as the commentators celebrate his mission completion, a massive 3 million won donation rolls in from the mysterious DUS. The streamer is ecstatic, while the chat immediately starts begging the rich stranger for hamburgers. Riding high on the massive donation and Woo Hyun's god, tier carry, the streamer Soil, is totally pumped to keep climbing the ranks. Thanks to her mysterious guest, she and Woo Yun bulldozed their way through the competition on a ridiculous 98-game-winning streak, hitting master tier in every mode. Elsewhere, fellow game streamers and siblings, Jung Ariam and Jung Dawoon, are lounging on the couch. Ariam is scrolling through a community page when she spots some major news. A legendary player known as Haxicle is looking for a disciple. The catch? They have to be a streamer. Thinking it's a golden opportunity, she asks her brother if they should try out. Dawoon, without looking up, informs her that he already applied. Oh, and by the way, he's the older one. Annoyed, Ariam asks why he didn't apply for her too. He just sarcastically agrees that he should have cared more for his little sis. Meanwhile, over at the Planet Earth HQ in America, development team leader Sophia is doing some late-night reading. A report on her screen summarizes Woo Hyun's recent in-game chaos, the highest kill count in history, and a massive donation from a viewer named DUS. All with no cheats detected. As she sips her drink, that name catches her eye. It seems Woo Hyun's little gaming session didn't just entertain some streamers, it's officially gotten the attention of the people who run the entire show. And they seem very interested. A few days later, just before the big hack tour stream, Woo Yun is introduced to his new in-game pet, a level 1 lightning wolf. This tiny fluffball's epic skill set includes biting, howling, and the ever-intimidating tumble. Our hero is, unsurprisingly, not impressed. Over voice chat, Nayan shares his disappointment, wondering what the point of the emergency update was. She then dumps a new job on him, pick a student from the huge list of applicants. With that, she dashes off, telling him to wait for her cue to start the stream. Deciding the tiny wolf is completely useless, Woo Yun thinks about sending it back. But the fluffball has other plans, unleashing a weaponized blast of pure, unadulterated cuteness that stops our hero cold. Defeated by the sparkly puppy, Dog Eyes, he can only clear his throat. Just as Nayan gives the signal to start the stream, his phone buzzes insistently. It's an urgent dispatch from the Dimensional Management Bureau. Reverse Planet Rampage incident is kicking off in Seoul and all available agents are being summoned immediately. So much for a quiet streaming career. Woo Yun's phone buzzes with a flood of emergency alerts. It's not just one incident, it's a coordinated attack. Reverse Planet Rampage. Events are hitting major cities like Seoul, Incheon, and Busan all at the same time. This is the large-scale invasion he feared, with monsters from the game now running wild in the real world. As he gets his official mission, eliminate the invading creatures. A woman in a sleek combat suit dashes toward him. With a cheerful wave, his fellow agent, Kim Hana, greets him as Junior. Kim Hana, taking her senior role a bit too seriously, announces their ride is ready and they need to get a move on. In a flash, they arrive at the designated coordinates, only to find the party's already over. The ground is littered with defeated goblins, much to Hannah's disappointment. She deduces that the first team is probably chasing the monsters who went after civilians. Confident that her, Junior, can handle himself, she decides they should split up to cover more ground. With a quick farewell, she zips off into the forest. Left to his own devices, Woo Yun decides to head deeper into the forest. His timing, as usual, is impeccable. He immediately hears someone screaming for their life as a pack of goblins gives chase. Apparently, Monster Rampage means it's open season on civilians. Just as the lead goblin is about to grab the terrified woman, a chain scythe whips through the air with deadly precision. The weapon finds its mark, and the goblin is abruptly removed from the equation. The monster hunt has officially begun. But Woo Yun isn't here to play whack-a-mole with just one goblin. His chain scythe ricochets through the trees, a metal blur that clears out the entire monster pack in seconds. The weapon moves with a life of its own, leaving a trail of defeated goblins in its wake. The rescued civilian, understandably shaken, stammers and asks who he is. Woo Yun casually replies that he's an agent from the Dimensional Management Bureau and points her in the direction of safety, all in a day's work for our hero. With a final, "Thank you," the rescued civilian makes a run for it. Woo Yun watches her go, realizing that squashing these little goblin minions is a total waste of his time. He needs to take down the big boss to stop this mess for good. And right on cue, a ridiculously muscular red monster appears, swinging a massive club at his head. Completely unfazed, Woo Yun blocks the hit and vaults away, dryly noting that the devil has arrived. But as he readies his scythe, he spots a spectator. A mysterious silhouette is watching from the woods. Woo Yun might be facing a giant red rage monster, but his mind is on the peeping Tom in the woods. He effortlessly dodges and parries the monster's clumsy swings, not even bothering to strike back. This bizarre defensive display confuses everyone watching, from the commentators to the online chat. An agent monitoring the feed correctly points out that Woo Yun's attention is clearly elsewhere. Finally getting annoyed with the audience, Woo Yun blocks a heavy blow, his glowing eyes fixed on the forest. He silently warns the lurker that he's done playing games. Done playing defense, Woo Yun ends the fight in a flash. One clean strike is all it takes to obliterate the monster, leaving the online chat buzzing with excitement. But our hero couldn't care less about the monster or his new fans. His gaze immediately returns to the forest, his glowing eyes piercing the darkness. He coldly tells the lurker to come out. In response, a tall, horned figure steps into the clearing. This isn't just another monster, it's a dimension invader, a being from another world. The real boss has arrived. The online chat absolutely explodes. An invader, the game's final boss material, has crashed the party way too early. The commentators are in a state of shock, explaining that seeing one of these is unheard of for anyone but the most elite players. But while everyone else panics, Woo Yun seems almost bored. He acknowledges he's never seen this particular model of dimension hopping weirdo before. Then, to the utter confusion of his audience, he casually tosses his scythe away. He decides he'll take this one on with his bare hands. Woo Yun charges in, expecting an easy fight, but this purple monster has some moves. The invader unleashes a dizzying flurry of strikes, forcing our hero onto the defensive. For the first time, Woo Yun actually seems to be trying, blocking, and dodging the relentless assault. Back in the studio, the commentators are baffled. Seong-chil remarks that the flow of the fight seems familiar, like a previous survival match. The online chat is just as confused, questioning when these monsters got so good at throwing hands. This boss fight is definitely not going according to the game manual. As they trade blows, a light bulb goes off in Woo-Yun's head. This purple monster isn't just a tough guy, it's a cheap copycat, mimicking his every move. This gives him a serious case of déjà vu, reminding him of when they built special units modeled after him just because he destroyed one little research facility. The monster throws a punch, but Woo-Yun effortlessly catches it. With a sigh, he grabs its head and slams it into the dirt. As a critique, he notes the imitation is still a bit sloppy. Woo-Yun gives his copycat a one-way ticket to the floor, cratering the ground with its face. While the chat starts a pity party for the monster, our hero is lost in thought. This whole knockoff routine feels way too familiar, just like the sketchy lab experiments from the other world. He wonders who could be pulling the strings now. The shady League of Enterprises, or maybe the invaders themselves. Then, the real puzzle piece clicks into place. This thing wasn't copying old data, it was mimicking his live PvP moves. This isn't a boss, it's another player. Woo-Yun kneels over the remains of his purple copycat, his eyes glowing as he connects the dots. This whole setup could only be the work of someone with serious admin privileges, someone who can mess with the game's core system. Right on cue, a digital interface pops up, flashing a ridiculously smug grin at him. A name immediately springs to Woo-Yun's mind. He wonders if his favorite internet stalker, Anonymous Viewer 62, is back for another round of high-level trolling. This game is getting personal. Just then, Kim Hana appears, calling him Junior, and asking if he's done playing. He simply confirms, while the chat roasts her for her cliché timing. Kim Hana surveys the absolute disaster zone Woo Hyun left behind, her jaw dropping when she spots a high-level captain entity among the defeated. Playing it cool, she radios for the cleanup crew to come deal with the mess. She turns to Woo Hyun, giving him a rare compliment on a job well done, confirming she knew he was the right guy for the task. After a quick status update, they agree to head back once the janitors arrive. Right on cue, a series of system windows pop up, rewarding our hero with a level up. After the battle, Woo Hyun gets summoned to the big boss's office for a debrief. His team leader, Kim Cheol, wastes no time and gets straight to the point: the purple invader. Apparently, the lab coats ran some tests and discovered this creature was a completely new model, unlike anything they'd ever encountered. Kim Cheol asks for any juicy details from the fight, and Woo Hyun casually drops a bombshell. The monster was imitating his fighting style. This revelation makes Kim Cheol look like he's just seen a ghost. Observing from a separate room, two analysts note that Kim Cheol's extreme reaction means things are more serious than they thought. And they're right. Kim Cheol explains that an invader has never tried to imitate a human before. If they're changing tactics to blend in, stopping their invasion becomes nearly impossible. While his boss spirals, Woo Hyun connects the dots. He figures these disguised entities will cause chaos, and worse, he suspects greedy corporations would gladly team up with them for profit. Snapping out of it, Kim Cheol thanks him for stopping a disaster. With the debrief over, Kim Cheol decides Woo Hyun has more than proven his worth. He slides a small blue box across the desk, officially qualifying our hero for something. Before Woo Hyun can even process the mystery gift, he walks out of the office and is immediately greeted by an incredibly energetic agent, Lee Yujin. Waving like she's trying to flag down a plane, she congratulates her, Junior. Eugene assumes the team leader already gave him the good news, hinting that the little box contains a pretty big deal. The mystery box pops open to reveal an official agent's badge. Lee Eugene announces that it's tradition for a senior to pin it on him. Since his actual mentor is conveniently nursing an injured hand, Eugene happily steps in to do the honors. She fastens the badge to his collar, officially congratulating him on becoming a full-fledged agent. The biggest perk of his promotion. He now has the authority to go on solo operations, letting him pick his own missions without getting bogged down by a mountain of paperwork. His new co-workers, Kim Hana and Lee Eugene, show up to see him off. Hana seems a little disappointed that he's already cleared for solo operations after just one mission with them. Eugene cheekily points out that Hana also managed to get herself injured during that mission, a comment that leaves Hana sputtering about having a good reason for it. After offering their future help, Eugene asks Woo Hyun what he plans to do. But before he can answer, the entire scene shifts. A streamer abruptly cuts her broadcast, surprising her viewers with a major announcement. The streamer, with all the creative genius of a toddler naming a pet rock, proudly unveils her new project, Nuclear Superstar. Her viewers, possessing actual taste, immediately flood the chat to roast her terrible naming skills. She completely ignores them, hyping up the show by mentioning the massive number of applicants. Fast forward a few days, and we're 10 minutes from showtime. Staff are making final preparations backstage while a group of contestants, including some very intense, looking blonde twins, quietly wait for the event to begin. The contestant lineup is a real mixed bag, featuring everyone from a 100K sub-YouTuber to a complete rookie. But the real talk of the town is a guy named Blue Whale, a notoriously toxic ragebait streamer. Other contestants are baffled, wondering why on earth a professional troll was invited. The show's host, none other than Jung Naeun, glances at his name on her list with pure, unadulterated glee. She confidently thinks he's completely done for. As the stream goes live, Naeun and her co-host, Cha Song-kyo, cheerfully welcome everyone to the audition. The broadcast switches to a massive outdoor studio, where Jung Naeun announces a live audition to find a disciple. After some dramatic build-up, she gets straight to the point and calls for the main event, the mysterious player, Haxicle. A figure materializes on stage in a slick suit and mask, introducing himself as Baek Wooyeon. The live chat immediately loses its collective mind, with fans freaking out over his suave appearance and demanding a face reveal. The other contestants can only stare, completely stunned by the gaming celebrity who just crashed their party. In a flashback, Wooyeon asks Naeun about team content in the game. She enthusiastically explains that raids are the ultimate PvE challenge, requiring a full party to take down a single, ridiculously powerful boss with tricky mechanics. Back in the present, Wooyeon addresses the contestants with the same cold intensity. He announces he's choosing a disciple and lays down the rules. They must follow his orders without question. He warns that anyone can be disqualified for disobedience at any time, which immediately makes some of the hopefuls break out in a cold sweat. Wooyeon then dangles a pretty sweet carrot, promising he can personally drag his disciple all the way to Master Tier. But of course, a contestant pipes up, questioning how a barely master player can teach anyone. Instead of arguing, Wooyeon agrees it's a fair point. His solution, a casual 12-on-1 brawl. He then lays down the most disrespectful challenge imaginable. If all 12 of them can land a single hit on him within 10 minutes, they win. If not, he wins. The staff completely panics. This was definitely not in the script. To make things even more interesting, Wooyeon declares that anyone who successfully lands a hit will pass immediately. But of course, he figures that's basically impossible without a handicap. So he casually draws a small circle around himself with his foot. He promises not to attack first, nor will he leave the circle. One of the contestants asks if they can all attack at once. Wooyeon calmly agrees, giving them permission to use any ability or weapon. With the rules set, his eyes begin to glow as he announces the start of the test.